will impact the world next? The speakers at our very first Best Youth Global, that's who. Are you a young powerhouse between the ages of 8 and 20? Then this expo is just for you. Join us on June 12th and 13th as a global influencer or global innovator and share your story, your influence, your journey to make and market your creativity, or just share your inspiration. All speakers will have automatic access to the Best Gen Zone. This is where the Best You Expo has free offerings and discount coupons just for your generation. For more information and to register as a speaker, go to thebestyouexpo.com today.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us. We have an amazing speaker lined up. We have Louise Moore, and she's going to be talking to you about how to build mental resilience with her tips and techniques. If you just saw that advert, we are running, the Best You are running a youth expo coming up. Wow, wasn't that inspirational, watching all the kids doing their public speaking that a lot of us adults are scared of doing, but also really getting into their personal development at a young age, which, you know, and spreading the word, which is amazing. Right, so let me welcome Louise to the stage. Louise is an international well-being practitioner and trainer with over 28 years of experience of dedicated work in the field of mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Louise has many qualifications, but she's best known for her own style of advanced clinical hypnotherapy. With a global clientele based from her prestigious Harley Street practice in London, Louise offers individual sessions and workshops as well, and she's passionate and committed to helping her clients achieve fast, effective, life-changing results. That's what we love here at the Best You. Louise's expert approach has helped everyone from celebrities, musicians, sports personalities to international business leaders, families, and children. Her knowledge and skills in the areas of neuroscience, the subconscious mind, nutrition, breath work, naturopathic healing have helped thousands of people of all ages become healthier and happier as a result. Louise has extensive experience working with children, adults, and families in crisis. She's even written a successful parenting program funded by the UK's government parenting fund, which is amazing, right? She's produced several best-selling hypnotherapy recordings and has appeared on the Channel 5 series, the TV series, The Big Body Squad. And she's often featured in top magazines with issues about hypnotherapy. She speaks at corporate and wellbeing events. She has a wealth of knowledge to share with her audience, and she is also delighted to become a Best You Legacy Club Director for London. So let's welcome Louise up onto this stage. I'm very excited to introduce you. Welcome, Louise.
Hi, Sarah. Great to be here.
Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited because I also know that you might have a special treat for us in store, a practical exercise, maybe a little meditation coming up later.
Yes, I think we can bring some of that in today to enjoy it.
Brilliant. Well, I know so many people will be really excited to know that's coming up. So I will hand the stage over to you, Louise. Enjoy, everybody, and yeah, get ready for the meditation. That sounds fantastic.
Thank you so much. Well, it's absolutely fantastic to be asked to come along today to talk with all of you and share some of my tips and my techniques for building some resilience within us all that we all need. Let's face it, right now with everything that's going on in the world. So I've been in this game for many years. I've had the absolute privilege of working with thousands of people from all walks of life, from tiny children. I run a children's clinic to elderly people who have had a wealth of life experience and have so many stories to tell, but still feel that they want to explore some things within themselves or overcome some of the challenges that might have been going on more recently in their lives. So, as I said, I'm really happy to be here. I hope that in some small way I can give you a few tips and tricks to take away with you to help you as you progress through your life, or maybe you're going through a current challenge and you need a little bit more resilience within you in the face of some adversity to get through it. And it's about getting through it, not only for yourself, but together. And particularly now in the UK and around the world, as we all come together to move forward through this pandemic, which has been challenging. It's been challenging me. I've had to change my lifestyle around, and it's been interesting. But I think what doesn't break us makes us. So, if you were an audience in front of me now, I know that I could ask these questions and ask you to stand up if it applied to you. So I'm going to do it now, and I'm going to ask you to imagine standing up. So if you've ever lost someone you truly love, or maybe you've had your heart broken, perhaps you've struggled with divorce. I've certainly been through that in my life. If you've lived ever through a natural disaster, or you've been bullied or made redundant, if you've ever sadly been through something like a miscarriage, or struggled with mental illness, or lived with someone that's struggling with mental illness, or had to cope with maybe a physical impairment or suicide somewhere in your family, then you've struggled with adversity. And I think every one of us in the room, if we were together, would be standing, and we understand what that's like. And if you haven't been through something that is that challenging, even some of the smaller things in life can create adversity, because it depends on our beliefs and how we rise to challenges and what we believe we can cope with within ourselves. But I know that we can all rise up from adversity. I've seen it in some of the people that I've worked with over the years, in situations where you probably think, there's no way I could ever come back from this. But we know that we are strong. There's always more to us. And there's certainly a lot to the human spirit. We all watch those films, don't we, where we see people come through adversity. We hear stories about years gone by when terrible things have happened in the world and people have survived. They've been victims. But I know it's utterly possible to think and act in certain ways that help us to navigate ourselves through these really tough times. So what allows us to do this? I've worked over the years, as I say, with so many people, and they find their path from adversity back to happiness, where they felt very lonely and depressed. They find love where they never thought they were going to find love again. They give themselves permission to trust. The overriding word for me is hope. When we've got that hope, we can really move forward to succeed in life and make life joyful and tap into everything that makes us feel so grateful to be here. And I always practice every day myself the 3 things that make me feel grateful for my day, for my family, for being loved and cared for the person that helped me, gave me some words of advice. Anything and everything we can find hope and gratitude, peace and happiness in. But we need to find some strategies sometimes when we're absolutely faced with a situation that is challenging our resilience. So, if we can accept that we live in an imperfect world, then wouldn't it be a good idea to get mentally fit and strong and physically fit and strong to be able to cope with these times? So mental resilience is our ability to bounce back and to rise up from these hard times, or maybe a crisis, or even a trauma, because they come along sometimes when we least expect it. And what I've come to understand as well is that one person's hard time can be another person's crisis, or even the crisis could be a trauma for someone else. So we're all different as human beings, and we come from different beginnings. So resilience is the ability to mentally and emotionally cope with the challenges that life throws at us, and it can come from different aspects of our life, what I call the tasks of life. So we've got our career, the important work we do. It doesn't matter whether we're a top lawyer or a mum at home bringing up children, which is one of the most important jobs. That's our work that we do. Maybe we're a student, or maybe we're looking at resilience in the area of our love and intimacy. We're having challenges in our relationships. This happens, or even in our area of friendships, maybe life isn't allowing us to connect with others, and we are absolutely social beings and we need that connectedness, but we also need time for ourselves, and that can be difficult to find that time for some privacy, some peace, to connect in with our passions. And when we've got a balance in most of these areas, then we become more resilient as human beings. And we need to practice. We need to look at where we need to focus. It's looking back really to the start of our journey when we're born. So, how do we build up our belief system? And this is an area that I've always been fascinated in our human behaviour, to see, what is actually going on for us and what makes us different. So babies come into the world and they very quickly work out how to get their needs met, don't they? What do babies do? They cry to be fed, to be changed, to be loved and held. And depending on how the parent is responding, the baby will work out how to behave. I can remember being amazed in my early days of practice working in the community with children and families, that I went to visit a family where both parents were profoundly deaf, and the baby didn't really cry at all. She waved her arms around to get her attention, and this was totally fascinating to me. So babies do work out how to get their needs met, and very quickly children develop, lead behaviours, their priorities, if you like. So some children are just happy with their normal attention seeking, notice me, I'm here behaviour. And other children, as you know, if you're a parent out there, can have tantrums where, they ramp up the attention seeking behaviour, or maybe become extra naughty just to get that attention. And then there's always the children that are shy and feel a little bit withdrawn or inadequate. But these early years priorities move forward to being our adult priorities. So we become either, led by maybe a pleasing personality, because we fear that if we don't please everybody around us and put them before ourselves, that we might somehow be rejected. And that's not a nice feeling, to be rejected. So we're moving through life with the mistaken goal that we have to do this, and we really feel it. It puts us in our worst place if we then end up in a relationship where we feel rejected, and we just don't have that resilience within us because of this belief to really feel that we can overcome. And that might impact on future relationships if we don't work on that. Or maybe we feel that we're driven by our moral purpose, needing that meaning and worth, and we strive to find that significance in our role, maybe with our career. And if we can't find that, it isn't a comfortable feeling. It feels like there's a big hole. It's meaninglessness that we're struggling from and fearing. And sometimes as well, if we feel that our life as a child has been a bit chaotic and out of control, that we may develop that belief to needing to be in control. So we're overcompensating for the fear of someone taking our control away again or humiliating. And maybe, if we were the shy type when we were younger and that was never resolved, we become more avoidant as an adult in life, because we totally fear all stress. It's too much. We want to hide away. And I recognise these core beliefs in a lot of the people that I work with, and it does impact on how they're going to deal with the situations that bring this adversity, and how they're going to move through that. So by just taking a little look back and understanding what our biggest fears are, what brings up the most anxiety in us, and how we truly see ourselves, and how we feel in here, because it's not all about what goes on and what esteems us in the outside world, it's about who we are as a person in here. And our core beliefs are evidently in place quite by the age of 10 years old, so we can carry them all our lives unless we do the work on ourselves, or somebody or something comes along to change a belief. But what I know is we can always change our beliefs and move on to create a happier lifestyle. So it's all good. And beliefs impact us with our self-esteem, as I said, with our relationships, or beliefs around prosperity, our job performance, our mental health, certainly our physical health, because we know how stress can really impact us. It's very common for me to see people that are going through these challenges in life, and they're not physically well either. They often will say, "I've got a skin condition, or my breathing is terrible. I can't breathe right. I'm having panic attacks, or maybe I'm having digestive IBS issues." It can heighten pain if we have any pain in the body, creating inflammation. There's so many things that thoughts can lead on to. So physical health, and also our spiritual outlook, depending on our own beliefs there. So we know that we need to face all of these to become more resilient as human beings. And we have emotional needs, the need for feeling safe and secure. And that's been challenging us right now, hasn't it, with this virus that's been around. We've not been feeling very safe at all. The need for attention and, being connected with other people. So if we are alone at the moment and you're there and you're in lockdown, it's difficult, but remember that we're all going to get through this together, and that we can support one another, and you can reach out to friends and family. We need to feel that emotional connection. It's more important than anything else. And we need to feel part of a wider community, not just us in our own little world, but that there is that community spirit out there, wherever we live in the world. We also need to, embrace that we have the need for privacy, as I said before, and, feel that life is meaningful. So connecting in and finding that purpose. And if you're struggling to find that on your own, then maybe doing some coaching and some personal development might help you to kind of explore what other options are out there for you, and bring some more joy back into your life. So I had a passion years ago to learn about the mind and the brain, and one of my very first jobs was working in a specialist unit for people that were suffering from epilepsy. And I am going back, 20 odd years ago, and we didn't know as much then about the brain as even we do now. But I was fascinated, and I was very grateful that I had the opportunity to learn from some very skilled people, psychologists and psychotherapists, and they really inspired me to want to go on to find out more about our brain. So I went through the psychology training, the psychotherapy training, which was absolutely wonderful. But when I went into learning about clinical hypnotherapy, I was blown away. I had found that key to really unlock what was taking people so long, if never, to find a solution to what was going on for them. We have really two minds. We have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And I always think about the analogy of an iceberg. So if you can imagine that big chunk of iceberg that's above the water as your conscious mind, that's only about 5% of the power of our mind. And that's about 5% of the iceberg, because underneath that water is this massive piece of ice that's submerged and hidden. And this is a whole other world. So when I went into learning about hypnotherapy, I was actually discovering, all about the powers of the subconscious mind. And what is down there is everything that's been programmed into us from dot, or before, depending on what you believe. But it's our habits and our patterns, and our brain loves to run on them, and our subconscious develops coping mechanisms and triggers, and it rides on emotions. So the subconscious mind is actually called the emotional mind, not the intelligent intellect. So how do things get down into the subconscious mind? Well, two ways really. It's either a drip, drip, drip of something happening, coming into our conscious awareness that's familiar to us, or things that are constantly being said to us, maybe when we were young. Words are powerful, actions and behaviours. And this is how we learn. So we are consciously competent about something before we become subconsciously competent. So we could use the analogy of driving a car. So do you remember, if you are drivers, the first time you got in a car, I can remember I nearly reversed back into the phone box. I know that I wanted to get out of the car and never get back in. It was terrible, because my mind and my body just were not coordinating, and I thought, I'm never going to get this. I'm never going to be able to drive. But of course, I did. And it was just being repetitive and immersing myself in the experience. And what happened was, my conscious mind eventually taught my subconscious and my body how to maneuver through. So I'm not even thinking about it consciously. I'm in the car and we have this flow. We're in the flow. So we are subconsciously competent. And this is when I began to realize that we can actually change anything about ourselves. We don't even need, in my belief, to go back into the past to change us in the now and to affect what happens to us in the future. Because if this subconscious mind can just be given in the way we receive thoughts and images and the feelings that we attach to them, the information, and we can immerse ourselves in that, not just being with me as the hypnotherapist once or twice a week, but daily little exercises, challenges, things we say to ourselves, the images that we bring up for ourselves, connecting in with those positive affirmations and feelings, begins to absolutely fire and wire off all the new wonderful neural pathways in our brain to help us to change. And we can rewrite those beliefs that will help us to move forward and to reach our goals, our wishes, our desires, to manifest the life that we want. Now, when I was very young, I went through a challenge, very sadly lost my father when I was 5 years old. And it left my mum and I and my grandma and my grandpa. And then I lost my grandpa very soon after. And so it was just, a woman's world. It was me, my mum and my grandma. And my mum had to continue to work. And life was very different for us. But I had this wonderful grandma, and she just had this simple saying that she used to say to me: don't ever say you can't, Louise. Just rub off the T, dear. Rub off the T and you've got can. You can always find a way to do something. Just believe in yourself. And I think this was such a powerful message to me as a child, even though I'd been through this tragedy, this trauma of losing my father, and really not understanding too much, you know, and so grew up with the belief of, people that love me leave me, and dare I love anyone in case they leave me, and that was something that I really needed to build resilience with. But with the words of affirmation and encouragement from my grandma, it was always I can. And that's the message that I want everyone to know, that we can change what we think we are, and we're not stuck with these thoughts. Thoughts are the language of our brain, and feelings are the language of our body. And they reckon we have about 60 to 70,000 thoughts in the course of each day, and probably 95% of them are repetitive from the past. And they're the same thoughts, leading to the same choices and the same decisions. So when we just take a moment to sit back and realise that most of these thoughts are uninvited. We've all got a crazy mind. I speak to a lot of clients, and in the course of my week, and they say, I don't really want to tell you this, Louise, I've been having this thought and it's a terrible thought. And I'm like, go on, tell me what the thoughts are. And that's interesting, isn't it? But they're not you. It's just this mind bringing up the uninvited thoughts, and it's making you feel bad. It's not bringing that resilience to solve the problems that you're going through. You're more than your thoughts, and that we can actually create and invite in positive thoughts. We can teach the subconscious mind. We can become the actors and actresses of the life now until the mind gets it, until the mind truly understands what it is that we are trying to achieve. So how we think, how we act and feel affects this neural biology. It affects what's going on. Even though, we know that we can immerse ourselves every day in it, it really will change. It will fire and wire those new pathways to new behaviours, and opening up lots of new doors and opportunities to us. Because, if we go back to saying, I can't do that, I don't want to do that, that's not me, I can't cope with that, I'll never get over that, we've set ourselves up to the possibility that we might not. But if we can start to say, yes, I can, and bring in that positivity, then, that's fabulous. And also, not just what we tell ourselves, but we have to become more resilient to other people's words. Sometimes other people can be unkind. Maybe they don't mean it, maybe they do. But we don't have to own their weaknesses. We don't have to necessarily condone it. We need to move away from it and become resilient, like we're putting a bubble around us. Often talk about putting our bubble of resilience around ourselves. And inside, this is me, I know myself, I'm happy and peaceful with life, I can cope with whatever life brings along, and outside my bubble is the negativity. So if you are someone who's experiencing negativity that's coming from someone else, connecting with knowing that they don't know you and there's so much more to you, and you can absolutely begin to discover this. So, what are the tips and the tricks that we can do to really help build resilience? And the first thing I want to say is that resilient people know that challenges in life happen and accept this. We don't want to be saying, why me? Why me? It's a case of, well, why not me? Things happen. I'm human. I can be sick. Things can happen, but I accept it. So acceptance is the first part of becoming resilient and moving through the face of adversity, moving through a scenario that is very painful, sometimes so upsetting that it's overwhelming. But it's acceptance that life can bring these things to us. And what we know is that resilient people are very good at choosing where they select to put their attention and their focus, selecting on how to move forward, switching their focus to the good stuff that is still around, even though what is happening might be very painful. It's not to focus always on the pain. I always remember hearing the story of someone saying, if you're in a car and you're driving at 100 miles an hour towards a brick wall and all you're doing is staring at the brick wall, you're going to hit that brick wall. But if you just turn your head, your attention to the side of the wall, just even slightly, where's that car going to go? Where's it going to take you? Turning your attention, just even a little bit at the beginning if it feels overwhelming and too difficult, but eventually more and more turning your attention and knowing that if you switch your focus, that good things can happen. And if you were just to think about, like I said, 3 good things that might happen in the course of your day, that can help you. And if you are stuck with a situation, you can ask yourself this question: is what I am doing right now helping me, or is it harming me? Is what I'm doing good for me or bad for me? And that can help to turn again your attention, or to let something go. Give yourself permission to let it go. The other thing that is useful to tune into is your breathing, because when we're going through a challenging time, we're distressed, we're anxious, we're fearful, we can establish a breathing pattern disorder. We become upper chest breathers, breathing faster than we should be, and we're not using our diaphragm, so therefore our oxygen is dropping. We might not realise, but we're leaving the fight flight switch on. The adrenaline is running all the time, the cortisol is running all the time, and it may be even that the traumas or the difficult scenarios were way back in life, but you learned then to be in this subconscious pattern of breathing, and it's still with you. And often people say to me, Louise, I'm feeling really anxious and bad, and I don't know why. And when we look back, we can find a time in their life where this dysfunctional breathing came about. So by just doing some gentle breathing each day, some breathing exercises, I promise you it will really help you. Even if you take 3 minutes, and maybe you can try it later, is just to sit, put your hands over where your diaphragm is, relax your shoulders down, and breathe in slowly through your nose. Breathe out even slower through your mouth. Just breathe in and out, and even hold the breath at the top for a count of 2, 3, 4. And what that does is it holds that CO2 in, and we need the CO2 to stay in, to push the oxygen into our system, to oxygenate our brains. And whilst you're doing it, for each minute, just think about something or someone that you're grateful for, and really immerse yourself in that wonderful feeling of gratitude, and breathe. If you were to do that 2, 3 times a day, if you're suffering from anxiety, you will begin to notice how much better you feel just by getting on top of your breathing and correcting your physiology. And the other thing is to tune in and check into your state, your energy state. What is your body language doing? Are you curled up in fear? Are you holding your head low for a lack of confidence? What you're saying, even without the words that you're speaking, is, I can't cope with life. I can't do this. If you just trick your mind by taking on a tall, confident pose, think of yourself or imagine yourself to be someone that you know is really confident, or even a powerful pose by putting your arms on your hips. We know that this changes the chemistry in the brain. It lowers cortisol by 60%. It increases positive hormones by 20%. So bring that in with the breathing, take on a confident pose, and that is another way that's going to help you. So help improve your physical health, look at your nutrition, make sure that you're putting vibrationally good food in your body. Take some exercise every day, even if it's 5 minutes. Every so often, get up from your chair and walk around and breathe. Go outside, get some fresh air. Or if you're someone that really enjoys exercise, make sure that you get back to the gym and doing all the activities you like. The other thing that's so important is sleep. Really be careful how much screen time is going on, how much blue light's going in, and allow yourself to relax and unwind. At the end of the day, we rejuvenate at a cellular level when we sleep. So much good stuff goes on. So just make sure that you give yourself permission, even if it's a few nights a week, to have a long early night and get that rest. And bring about maybe some meditation, finding your purpose, taking on new hobbies, and getting things in perspective, not just in the long term, but in the short term. And don't blame yourself. Don't get self-critical. Turn off that inner critic voice. Practice this attitude every day. I'm just going to end now by bringing you into a little meditation together as I'm noticing the time. So if you want to join me, just sit back in your chair and you can close your eyes and just be guided by the sounds of my voice. So just make yourself comfortable and close your eyes. And I want you to give yourself permission just to let go of your day now and just be here and be present in this moment. I want you to move from that fast analytical mind to a sensory state, to focus on your body now. Your body and your subconscious just begin to merge together as you allow yourself permission to relax, to breathe, to relax, to be still, to be quiet. I'm just guided by the sounds of my voice. There's all the other sounds that may be around you. Well, they're just there, that's okay, but they're in the background. I want you to become aware of the space around you and just notice what you notice. And breathe gently and easily. Just bringing your awareness from the top of your head all the way down now through your body, through the muscles of your face. Let the tensions release. Forehead and temples, eyes and eyelids. Let your neck soften, your shoulders drop down. Let your back just sink into the chair where you're resting. And perhaps you could imagine yourself in a peaceful, relaxing place, a perfect space for you. Where would you go in your mind if you could be there right now? Just bring those thoughts, those images, those senses to mind. As I count down from 5 to 1 now, you're just doubling and deepening these pleasant feelings. 5, relaxing now twice as deeply. 4, twice as deeply relaxed as before. 3, just drifting down now, deeper and deeper. 2, very deeply relaxed. And 1, into complete and absolute relaxation now. So now you feel calm and relaxed. So perhaps you could ask yourself a question. What is the one thing I want to change about myself right now in the way I think and feel? What is the one thing that I want to change to create that strength, that hope, that resilience? Just allow that thought to come up into your mind now. What emotions does this bring up for you? Just notice whilst feeling calm and present. Recall how you act this out maybe in your life. You're going to give yourself permission now to change this part of you, to just dismantle this memory of the old part of you that you don't really want or need any longer, and create a new mind for a new and brighter future. So I want you to just see and sense and feel what it's like to be without this belief, this habit, or this part of your personality, and move into creating the new you. Move into that image as if you're floating forward, and hold it in your mind and feel it in your body. Just stay with this. Just turn up the feeling and the positive emotions, and imagine your life from now on in this way. Allow your mind to revisit this part of you every single day. Notice how great you feel right now. You are beginning to allow this to become your new reality. So as you just float back into yourself, where you're resting now in your chair, aware of your surroundings, just bringing yourself back up now, slowly but surely into your awareness. And take a nice breath in and have a stretch and feel good, and know that you've hopefully connected in with something today from my talk that will help you with anything that you've been going through from the past, or you've been struggling with, or anything that might come up in the future, just to really begin to understand that you can absolutely trust in yourself, that you have everything within you to deal with it, and just follow some of the tips and the tricks and techniques. And thank you for listening to me. And if you want to connect in with me, you can find me at lifemattersgroup.com. You can drop me a line if you're interested in coaching or client work, or being a student with me as I run a hypnotherapy training course. All the information is there on the website. Thank you.
Well done, Louise. That was amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. Did you enjoy speaking?
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, and the meditation. Oh, I think everyone's so relaxed and feeling amazing after that. So what do you think the number one benefit from meditation is?
I think it brings you back to the now. You know, we're either in the past or the future in our head, aren't we? We're not here enough in the present. And I think it just grounds us, and it gives us some space to really focus on what's important and to do some of the work to help change. As I said, you can teach the mind anything. It's there for us to work with. We don't work with it enough. We go to work on other things in the course of a day, but not here.
I know. It's amazing, isn't it? And I think, especially right now with the times that we're going through, I think even more so it's important, right? To be able to take a bit of time out and look after ourselves.
Definitely. It's a practice that, you know, if we have got more time to really get into, even if it's 5 minutes a day, it's so worth it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. But don't get overwhelmed by thinking it's something you have to do for a really long time and commit huge amounts of time to. It can just be, as you said, 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, you know, the first few minutes of becoming aware in the morning as you're waking up in bed, you're in that alpha brainwave, you're highly suggestible. So it's well worth just taking those few moments and working with them and setting your intention for the day.
Yeah, I mean, I know in the bio that from the bio that I read out earlier that you've got several best-selling hypnotherapy recordings. Where can people find those?
They're on my Life Matters website, so they can be found there. And hopefully I'll be adding some more to the collection very soon.
That's brilliant. There it goes. It's just coming along the screen there for everyone, lifemattersgroup.com. So do go and check out more information on Louise, because if you've been as inspired as I have, I'm going to be checking it out and getting myself some of those hypnotherapy. Your voice is so soothing. I think I'm going to need that, especially tonight after a long day hosting. I think it's going to be just the tonic. So thank you so much for joining us. It's lovely to have you on.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Oh, isn't she wonderful? And wasn't that amazing? Now, I do think that we have, in this day and age where we are right now with the pandemic, so much going on that meditation and, a little bit of Louise Moore in our lives would be just the perfect tonic. So do check her out. She is lovely, isn't she? Okay, so we have some adverts to run. Now, these are amazing. We've got one which is business advice from 3 successful CEOs coming up. So for those of you who are entrepreneurs and interested in growing your own businesses, really, really, really interesting. And don't forget, at 1 o'clock, we have Bridget Callahan. She is coming on to talk to you. Now, don't miss Bridget. She is absolutely amazing. Her presentation is called Slide Shame and how to make your presentation so much better. So anyone that's doing presentations, and guess what? We all have to do it, I suppose, for work, especially on Zoom these days. So check out at 1 o'clock. So come back and stay tuned and make sure you're here from 1 o'clock to watch Bridget.
My passion is to set people free by helping you transform any area of your life more effectively and faster than anything you've tried before. I do this by unique abilities gifted to me through 2 near-death experiences that allow me to help you change your frequency, changing your life.
I had my first baby when I was 19, Rebecca. And I suppose that was very, very young back then. But she gave me the sort of drive and enthusiasm to work harder, because I then, had a small mortgage, a tiny mortgage, I think £38,000. And I thought, this is huge. How am I going to pay this? And I wanted to give her the things that I didn't have when I grew up. And after she was born, I got a job in Labatt's, the beer company. As just an admin girl. And I was so bad at that as well, because I couldn't type to save myself. But I set myself a goal that I wanted to get up to the top of Labatt's within 4 years. And I actually did it within 3 years. I was sort of heading up Scotland's sales and marketing. And I absolutely loved it. So I had a plan, and I worked exactly to that plan. And I still have a plan every single day of what I want to do in life, both personally and both in business.
So this was you going out one night, very uncomfortable with the girls, and you said there's got to be something more comfortable that we could wear. And you came up with the idea of developing and creating something that you had no experience with.
That's right. I went to a dinner dance and I was wearing a very uncomfortable cleavage bra, and I thought, why should women go through all this pain for a tiny bit of gain? And I took the bra off in the toilets. It was that uncomfortable. And I went back to the table with all of my friends and I said, I'm going to invent a bra, start a business on Monday. And they said, well, what do you know about bras? You haven't been to college, you haven't been to university. And I says, well, I've got a pair of boobs and I'll work it out. That's what I did. For 3.5 years of my life, I invented Ultimo, the first world gel fill bra. And I went to the Prince's Trust and they gave me some help and they gave me a mentor as well. And, thousands of prototypes later, from playing around with the bra, and I wanted to, with the first gel fill bra, I wanted to create basically a boob job bra. And 3.5 years later, I got all my friends and family into my bedroom and I asked my Auntie Joan to try it on first. And she says, well, why me? I said, well, if I can give you a cleavage, it will be a miracle. So she went in and she came out of the bathroom and she had a massive cleavage. And that's when I went down to Selfridges, the department store.
So you developed your bra.
Yeah.
You have no way, you don't know how you're going to sell it, but you thought, I'm going to go to Selfridges and sell it there. I love the story. You just popped in there and decided to share your idea and your dream.
Yeah, I've always been told by my mum and dad. You know, it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what education you managed to get. It doesn't matter the colour of your skin, your religion. If you have that dream, passion, determination, can-do attitude, you can achieve anything that you want to achieve. And they've always taught me to think big. So I thought, well, I could go to small boutiques and I could sell my range through there, but minimum order quantities is going to be a massive issue for me. So I just turned up to the buying office in Selfridges, the biggest, most prestigious department store in the UK. And I didn't have an appointment. I just had a bag of bras. And I said, I'm here to see the buyer. And she says, do you have an appointment? And I said, no. And she says, well, you won't get to see her. And I said, well, you don't understand. This is 3.5 years of my life in this bag. I'm heavily pregnant with my third baby. I'm £480,000 in debt. And this is the best cleavage bra ever. I need to see the buyer now. Anyway, half an hour later, after trying to persuade her, and I think she felt sorry for me, the buyer came down and tried the bra on, and boom, I got into Selfridges. So I suppose when I'm mentoring people in business, I say to them, you know, you've got to approach people, you've got to get yourself out there. Don't sit on your backside and wait for them to come to you, because it ain't going to happen.
I guess the first thing to say is don't even think about it unless you've got a passion for it, because you need that passion oozing out of the pores of your skin. You know, if you're going to convince people, whether they're people to invest in your business, whether they're customers or whatever, that passion's got to be infectious. If it's not there, don't even bother, almost. But saying you've got that passion, what needs to go with that is the real focus. And I guess for me, an awful lot of us see that end objective perhaps as being the goal, but I see it as lots of end games, and you've got to go a step at a time and have an end game. You've got to say, that's the goal I'm getting, that's where I want to be in 3 years' time. But then you've got to work out the steps along the way and be disciplined about that, really going for it. You need good advice. You need good advice around you. It's very easy to get hold of someone, if you like me, someone of our sort of background, who can just give you a bit of advice and just avoid you going into the elephant traps, you know? So focus is important. A bit of advice is important. That's objective, wholly objective, unsentimental advice. And you probably won't get that from your family. And the other thing is this can-do attitude. You've got to be tenacious. Never, ever take no for an answer. I mean, never. And I really mean that. Never take no for an answer. Just keep going at it. You've only got to read some of the books of people like Richard Branson or whatever, and how they got where they've got. And I guess tenacity was one of the big assets they all had. Don't allow yourself to get knocked back. Yeah, it's hell. Being rejected is hell, whether you're being rejected by a financier or a client or whatever. But you've got to handle those knocks and get through it, and you've got to really be tenacious about it. And I think the other thing, I'd say is you've got to have a smile as well. Don't make it too difficult. I was really intrigued. I picked up a bit of research recently, which was done in the business world, why people follow other people, and it was something like 90% or 95% said, I follow people because of a feeling of fun, energy, and excitement. That's what people want. And that's what you as a leader need to exhibit: fun, energy, and excitement. And an awful lot of that comes from really loving what you're doing, and going for it. And then getting those people around you who complement your skills. I think that's the other trick. They don't necessarily have to work for you, but people around you. Recognize the areas you're weaker in. And I don't mean necessarily just the technical skills, but it may be the people skills as well. It may be the emotional intelligence side. Make sure you've got people around you that complement whatever it is you're doing, and then go for it.
Why is Virgin such a loved or admired brand in many ways? What's your take on that?
It's been about building a business for consumers and addressing consumers' needs, whatever the segment's been. I think Richard has liked the whole taking on David and Goliath. So it was taking on BA and actually making BA a better airline. It was about taking on the big telecom companies, the mobile companies, and creating a funky mobile brand. He, with his management teams and with people he's put in businesses, maybe like me, has been able to, and it's quite ephemeral. I don't know. It's very hard to pin down. You get asked this question all the time, but we seem to be able to attract and motivate and keep people really loyal to the companies they work for. And I mean, travel is a tough business and a tough segment. You don't earn fortunes in travel. And yet we have got and had amazing staff at Virgin Atlantic over the years. And sometimes we had to put the brakes on a bit, like after 9/11, and people would leave. And we had at least 2 redundancy programs during my time there. And that's never easy to deal with. You have to do it quickly and humanely and not damage the company. And then people would go away and they get other experience and they come back and they go, when we were here, we didn't realize that actually this is a really great place to work. So it's fascinating how you bottle that up and what it really is. And maybe that's one of the things for me to think about a bit more now. I've got more time, but you're always on a charge. But it's certainly been there and we've kept it all the time. We're very conscious of the staff. We always had many, many more ideas than we could ever practically implement or practically justify. But I liked always challenging and trying to come up with the new ideas and doing things differently. And I think that's what consumers like. And that's one reason why Apple's been so successful, hasn't it? That it's always surprised and delighted people. And I have views about research, for example, that when people say, well, you've got to go off and research what consumers want. I don't think you do, because I don't think consumers know what they don't know. And if I asked you 10 years ago whether you'd have wanted half the things on your iPhone today, you'd say, oh, I don't need that, I just need a phone. So I think companies have to be visionary and they have to push ideas. Yes, go and validate them through research. Go and see, actually, is it going to work? Do consumers want it? But I could tell you so many stories about things that we put into research that consumers said, oh, no, we don't want that. And then we did it anyway. And then they went, wow, we love this.
I mean, this first ever a boss of mine, Arthur Shillito, was someone I kept in contact with. And he was a bit of a mentor to me, I have to say. And he was really, really valuable. But
what did he teach you? If I can ask you, what did you learn from him?
You know, just for example, give you a great example, Bernardo. Something that he did that I've sort of tried to emulate ever since. If ever you were in a meeting with Arthur with a third party, and it might be a customer, it might be a supplier or an inspector, within an hour afterwards, on your desk would arrive a handwritten note, and it would say, "Dear Roger, thank you so much for your contribution to the meeting. I really appreciate it, Arthur." And, you know, as a young lad, your chest would go out, your shoulders would go back. There was nothing I wouldn't do for Arthur Shillito. And it was a big lesson to me, you know, nothing to do with money, nothing else, just a bit of praise and a bit of recognition. And, you know, for all of us, I think that's incredibly valuable. I don't think today any of us praise each other enough. And it's not just the people who work for you. You know, there's nothing wrong with praising your boss if he's done a good job, because it's pretty lonely the higher you get. There's nothing wrong with praising your peers and saying, well done, that was a great idea you had. I don't think any of us do enough. And it was something Arthur really taught me there. And I guess the other word was that he cared, or you felt like he cared. He cared about you and what you were doing. I mean, equally, he'd give you the hand smacks you needed occasionally and all that. But he, for me, was just a role model that I've always kept there ever since, I think.
Sure. Many, many, many years from now, what would you like your legacy to be?
I would just love to inspire as many people as possible, especially from deprived areas, for them to look up to me and say, well, if she's managed to do it, to build these successful brands and, you know, get an OBE and in the House of Lords and everything else, and she's from an area where we live in, then we can do it too. There ain't no secret, you know, if you just work hard. I always say the harder you work, the luckier you become. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you so much for watching Inspiring People. Thank you.
We are living in unprecedented and uncertain times. Thriving in the New Normal is my new TV show created just for you. Are you aware that while most people are surviving during this new normal, others are thriving like never before? Which one are you? Circumstances have never defined a person. Our responses do. What if you could experience the thoughts and behaviors of some of the most successful people in the world and how they have chosen to respond? Let us help you become the person you were destined to be and not just your current reality. You deserve it. Get ready to thrive. Watch my show now on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Google Play.
People want to be the best, become the best, learn from the best. That's why in 2021, The Best You TV will bring you its new TV series that will feature the top and the best speakers, coaches, authors, and mentors. Coming soon to The Best You TV.
Hi everyone and welcome back. So how are you enjoying day 2 of the Best You Expo? We've got some extra audio going on there, but that's great. So I want to talk to you about, we actually have, hang on, I know what that is.
Life is about the situations you deal with.
Sorry guys, I'm in a presentation in a minute, so I'm logged into 2 screens. So hi, my name is Sarah Davison. I'm your host for this afternoon. I've got some really exciting news for you because we are going to announce some of our giveaways. Yes, so we have some winners to announce. So listen up. If you've been tuning in and you've entered a competition, then do listen up. So the Best You are giving away a one prize, which is worth nearly $5,000. Expand your brand TV package, and the winner of that is actually our next speaker, Bridget Callahan. So well done, Bridget. You are a winner today as well as a speaker, so thank you for that. Okay, we have another one from the Best You, which is Expand Your Brand Leader package. Amazing package. It's worth nearly $4,000, and the winner of that is excuse me for my pronunciation on this one, Muralidharan Jayaram. So I hope I pronounced it right, but you are our winner of that. It's $4,000 worth of prize there. Well done, you. Also, we have 1 free episode of the Best TV series from the Best You again worth $3,500. These prizes are amazing. And the winner of that is Michael R. So Michael R, you will be contacted. Well done, you. What an amazing prize. We will see you on the Best You TV. Also, Darren Winters from the Wealth Training Company is giving away a VIP stock market and Forex online training program worth $5,000. And Jason MCC, if you're listening, you have won that one. So congratulations. Now, David Fagan. I've worked with David myself, actually helped me with my book, The Splits there, which was a bestseller on Amazon from Icon Builder Media. He's giving away a $2,000 prize of his Publishing Genius course. Highly recommend this one. I know David personally, he's a good friend. And the winner of this one is Brenda C. Hi, Brenda. Well done, you. You've won David Fagan's prize. A brilliant one there. Also, we've got more prizes. Can you believe this? Giving away so much content. From Jen Beck, an 8-week Restore Your Gut Health program worth $1,200. Complete Health Revolution. The winner of that is Felicia. Felicia, congratulations. And the last one I'm going to announce right now is from Bethany London. And it's a one-to-one clearing session worth $1,000. So thanks, Bethany London, for giving us that prize. And the winner is Marta Hari. So well done, Marta, for winning that one. Great. Well, as you can see, if you stay tuned in today and you're attending the webinars, you are going to get so much. We're giving away lots of amazing content. We are also giving away some incredible prizes. There's lots more prizes to win, so don't worry if you didn't win just now, there are more to win. So stay tuned, stay watching. Now, I am very excited to introduce our next speaker. Her name is Bridget Callahan. She is doing a presentation called Slide Shame and how to make your presentations so much better. Now, Bridget Callahan is a slide presentation designer with over 30 years experience creating engaging speeches, presentations, and seminars. She's worked with some of the biggest names in business. So you're in the right place. She's an expert, including Xerox, Samsung, and PayPal. So when most executives and entrepreneurs go on to create a speech or a presentation, they really don't know how to convey what they want to say in an engaging and compelling way. But after working with Bridget, her clients show up with PowerPoints that are easy for them to deliver. and the audience ends up retaining the concepts that the speaker wanted to get across and remembering the speaker as the true expert that they really are. Bridget is on a mission to end the tyranny of boring PowerPoints. I'm sure we've all sat through death by PowerPoint before. She's passionate about helping speakers create presentations that engage and inspire their audiences and helps turn them into raving fans. So I am super excited to welcome Bridget to the stage. Hi, Bridget.
Hi, Sarah.
I am so excited for this one for myself, so I will be listening to what you're saying. So thank you for joining us, and over to you for this great presentation.
Okay, I've got some slides, so hopefully they can pull them to the screen. There we go. So this is slide shame. When I mention this name, slide shame, people wonder what I suffer from that, but I've never heard that term before. So I want to show you how to avoid slide shame and really connect with your audience. So how many of you out there have a presentation coming up? If you can go to the next slide, please. Can we advance to the next slide? Thank you. And then the next slide. So have you ever felt like you could talk longer but didn't have a chance? What if you could say more than the time you're given? What was the communication you were trying to get across that got missed? How can your audience walk away with more information and remember more of what you said? In 40 minutes, I'm going to show you how you can up-level your presentations and slides to match your expertise and to convey the message so your audience is thrilled that they listened and glad they came. Next slide, please. Oh, you are on the next slide. Okay, good. You will see how a slide goes from boring to amazing. Next slide. And we're going to look at how the brain retains information from a visual sense. Next slide. How your talk can convey 1,000 more words per slide than what you can say alone. Imagine that. We've all heard a picture's worth 1,000 words. And if you have a short amount of time to talk and you choose a really great picture, it's going to speak more than what you can say in that amount of time. So your audience will appreciate your efforts and they'll want to work with you. So my name is Bridget Callahan, next slide, and I'm your presentation experience strategist. I work with clients and I help them to strategize how we can make those slides up-level their expertise and authority and really convey that message in a powerful and exciting way. I call this the wow factor. And I also say, you know, we're creating the Hollywood effect because we all look at Hollywood, we look at movies, we look at television, and it has that wow factor, like we're tied to the screen. What if you could create slides that way? And they were listening to you and looking at the screen instead of looking at their phone or looking at the door to want to escape. Next slide, please. I've worked many live events making changes for speaker slides just before they hit the stage and providing that calming effect for them so they can be their best. And I've worked on large shows and small. Next slide. And I've had the privilege of traveling to many places internationally. Next slide, please. And working live at these events, I get to see what happens to the audience and how they're affected by it. Next slide. So in working these events, I've had a lot of fun along the way, and I got to witness the results of these speakers and how their audience reacts. I'll wait for my slides to catch up here. There we go. Okay, next slide, please. And unfortunately, I've seen many of them wondering if their time was well spent. I realize the impact the event can have on the audience, and I've seen it all too often how speakers can make or break that experience. And based on their preparation and delivery, it amazes me how much money is invested in these events and travel and hotels and meals and venue rental, and yet they don't spend the mind share to the content that they're delivering from their message. Think about it. You go to these live events, right? And out in that lobby, they've got these great banners. They've got this nice table where you register, you get a nice badge, and you go in there and you're sitting for about 8 hours to watch all these different presentations. And most of those slides are not well thought out. They're not well produced, and you feel like, wow, this is a waste of time. And when I work with speakers, and I've seen others, you know, really get some high level slides, it pulls the audience forward. It's like they're sitting on the edge of their seat and they're waiting to see what's next. That I call the Hollywood effect. So to give you a little more background, I've worked with Fortune 500 companies, including medical, pharmaceutical, banks, and auto. Next slide. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in fine art printmaking, but I knew coming out of college, I'm not going to make it as a fine artist. If you can go to the next slide, please. So I quickly got a job assisting an art director and learning the ropes of commercial graphic design. Next slide. But I found the most joy is working with people who are giving presentations and helping them succeed and win with their audience. So being a slide designer is more than just being a graphic designer. And I find most graphic designers don't know how to design slides, because as I go through this presentation, you're going to understand how the brain works when we're looking at visuals on a screen. So I have many stories of working backstage and witnessing performances that were both good and maybe not so good. And I know how important it is for that audience to have a great experience. I'm actually here today as an advocate for your audience. I'm being their voice and letting you know what they need to see in order for them to consume and understand the information you're providing, and maybe even generate a higher conversion rate due to their increased connection with you. So just want to know, next slide, please. My commitment is to abolish the boring slide and to create a win-win experience for you and your audience. I'm going to wait for my slides here. Next slide. So let's abolish that boring slide, shall we? Okay, next slide, thank you. So my promise today is to convey to you, let's keep it simple. Let's be mindful of the images we're putting on screen. Let's avoid those awful bullets. Let's be creative. And finally, you've got to tell a story. And we're going to tell that story visually as well as you're going to speak that story. So next slide. Okay, so let's keep it simple. No white backgrounds. Next slide, please. We've all seen this slide, right? The white slide background with all the text. We can hardly read it. It's like, oh, hum. Then they start reading the bullets to us. Really? We've had that experience, right? And what I'm telling you is the white background is like shining a flashlight in your eyes. Please go back. No, you're too far ahead. I'm still on the white slide, slide number 26. So to explain this, when we're looking at a slide with a white background, our eyes go to the light. So when we go to the light, it's like it's very hard to read the dark letters. And so we have to formulate each letter in our brain and then put the letters into words and then formulate the words to see what it's saying. You think about that brain power, and it takes a lot. And what happens after about 10 minutes, you're going to put your audience to sleep. So I tell people, if you want to put your audience to sleep, put all your slides in a white background. And so as I go through this, notice how the slide, when it's not on a white background, what's the effect for you? How does it affect your brain? So if I click forward, I go to the next slide. We call this the eye chart. When we see these slides with all that text, this is behind the scenes, behind the curtains, the industry, we call it the eye chart. So let's go to the next slide. Slide number 27. Can we go to slide 27? One more. Oh, there we go. Good. All right. So this is an actual slide that I found on the internet. Someone was using this. They found this graphic and they slapped it on a white slide and put it into their deck. And they didn't even center it. And please go back. We're still on slide 27. So just so you know, I created a lot of slides for this presentation. There's probably a slide every 20 seconds. And there's timing to it. So it's kind of hard when you're not pushing your own slides to kind of keep the timing, but stay with me here because it'll be worth it, okay? So they didn't even center this graphic. So if you go to the next slide, this is what does it look like when you design it well? You know, take that nice graphic, make it big, make it go to the edge of the screen. You can go to the next slide, or slide 28, and then take the text and put it on a dark background. Notice how easy it is. Our eyes, if you look at this slide, where does your eye go? Your eye goes to the text, and then it goes to the graphic, and then back to the text. We're still on 28, thank you. So the impact has a different thing to it. So let's go to the next slide. This is a sample of a slide that a client had, and I said, next slide. He called it his sample funnel. And you can see this is a typical slide. We've seen it, you know, kind of ho-hum. So if we go to the next slide, this is what I call a sample funnel is. Yes. So it's just more visual. It's an actual funnel, and we can see the text clearly, and we can see how it rises above on the funnel. All right, next slide. And then this was his slide. He called it his hot seat. Now, how many have been in a mastermind or in a small group work and you get called to the hot seat? If we can go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so then go to the next slide. This is what I gave him for the new design. So find a visual. This is a hot seat. Look at this chair. I mean, oh my God, I want to go sit in that. I'll be in the hot seat, but oh my God, it's out in the middle of the desert. It looks like it's about to rain. It's kind of nervous. It makes you a little tense. That's what I say is a hot seat. He loved this slide. This was the best in the whole deck for him. Next slide. And then this is another client. So she was speaking on, she helps speakers get gigs to speak. Speakers need to speak. Next slide, please. Thank you. And this was her beginning slide. And I'll show some other examples of her slides as well. So this is the redesign. Go to the next slide. You can see it's a darker background. We took her logo. We kind of created the shapes in the background. And notice how your eyes go. We're on slide 34. Yeah. And notice how your eyes go to the logo because it's white, it's light, and then you see the orange text, you see her picture. It's just more inviting, it's easier to consume, and you can listen to how she's talking and look at that slide and it's not jarring. So if we go to the next slide, you can see, oh my God, it's that white background again. I'll wait for the slides. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is her offer slide. And you can see, well, you know, I've seen a lot of offer slides like this, but what's missing for me is really clearly delineating the pricing for each item, and that I can see, okay, how does this stack up? How is this going to be worth me investing in this? So go to the next slide. And this is, and you'll just want to click through the next slide to have it build. So this is the new slide. Instead of a white background, we took her golden background. And then each click shows an offer, and it's actually tied to an image. So you have that image that you know, I'll talk more about images in a minute. But notice how it's easier to read. It's much more impactful. It has that wow factor. Go ahead and show the final price. Click through. Waiting for the click. Okay, just go to the next slide. And then her bonus slides. So it's more engaging, it's more appealing. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So let's get into being mindful about your graphics. We're on slide 38. Okay, and then what do I mean by being mindful of your graphics? It's like really thinking about what is it you're talking about and what can we show visually that really enhances what you're saying. So if we go to the next slide, you know, this is the slide we're building. This was for a speaker, and hold on this slide for a minute, that was a book writer. She helps you write your book, and she was giving a talk to investors and saying, why do you need a book? You know, it gives you authority, it gives you credibility. and I can show you how to write your book. We can write it together, or I can write it for you. And so in her talk, she talked about book sales and how they grew over the years. And I said, well, let's make that graphic with a stack of books. So just think a little bit creatively, and you can get to that impactful slide. Let's go to the next one. And this next slide, slide 40. So this is a slide that talks about social media, all right? And it was actually a bulleted slide listing all the social media you could partake in. And he was talking about being in the sandbox of your marketing. And I said, well, no, I see a different vision for this. And so we created this, and he just thought this was awesome. All right, next slide. And again, back to the book writer, she was talking about discover your heart message. And could you not find a better image than this? If you look at this image as she's talking about it, it's like such a rich image. You have these people sitting around a fire on the beach, you know, enjoying the evening. You've got this woman drawing with a light, creating the heart, and you've got this sunset in the background. It's just such a rich image. So discover your heart message. And then the next slide. And then this is frame your message so people hunger for it. I don't know if you can find a better image. This is awesome. And then the next slide, slide 43. This is talking about, you know, embracing the words in your book. I mean, if you're going to write your book and you're nervous about it, what if you just embraced it because it was about you, or it was about something you're passionate about? So embracing the words, that visual just says that right there. Okay, and then the next slide. So this was a slide where they were talking about business impact and how it can go further. And business impact is like business insight on steroids. So that's what he said, and this is what we showed. So just 2 words, business impact, and a visual that conveys steroids. Pretty simple, right? Okay, then the next slide. So I tell people, I says, please, under no circumstances, use bullets, because bullets kill. So if you click through that slide, I'm not sure if there's a delay in watching or not, so I'll just keep moving forward. All right, so the next section I want to talk about is avoiding those bullets. And how do we do that? So let's look through this. This is a slide I got from a client. And you can see that they have a title and they have a list of bullets. And I go, no, how can we make this better? So if I click to the next slide, slide 48, this is so much more engaging, you know, because we look at that image that she's talking about the problem, solution, and she can just read those bullets. She doesn't have to show them to them and read them out loud. You know, they're just listening to what she's saying and the distinctions, and they're seeing that image. Okay, and then the next slide, again, this was a bulleted slide, and I said, I think there's a better way to design this. And so what I say is go full frame with the image. Go full frame with the image, and then take the bullets, get rid of the little bullet marks, and just pepper the text around the image. You can reveal them, you know, on a click if you want, but it's just more engaging. It's more appealing. Again, we're kind of getting rid of that white. We want the text to be the light color so that our eyes go to that. Okay, and the next slide, these 3 slides that I'm showing you are a series of bullets. So I talk about, if you want to convey bullets, do 1 bullet per slide. So this next series is that. So the first slide says, get attention. What a message must do is get attention. And I click to the next one and it says, create interest. And notice how I tie an image to each of the bullets. And they're talking to these bullets for, you know, maybe a few seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, just talking about the distinctions of the bullet. And then the third bullet is cause, thought, or action. And just a unique way of revealing them and showing the artwork. So I hope you're getting some ideas here. And then this one, a lot of people love this bullet, this slide. This is a bulleted slide, but it doesn't look like a bulleted slide. It's what we're going to learn today. And it just reveals naturally what you're going to see next. And It's clean. Okay, and then this next slide, I love this. This is business impact again. And we took these Post-it notes. Actually, that's my handwriting. And I said, let's use Post-it notes instead of bullets. And then as we go forward to the slide and talk about the different distinctions of each bullet, we'll take that Post-it note and put it on the picture. And so it was just this creative idea we came up with, and it was awesome because it's so unique and different and engaging. You know, we're creating that Hollywood effect, right? Okay, and then the next slide is goals is to stay in faith and can't be halfway. So this was an animation I created actually in PowerPoint, and it animated into this gauge. And again, just created this engaging slide. This was actually a bulleted slide on a white background, just with the fear, worry, trust, and faith as bullets. But you could see there's a different way to convey this. All right, so let's go to the next slide. So the fourth thing I want to talk about is be creative. I know some people think they're not so creative, but they judge. They know what they like on TV. They know what they like in visuals. When you go looking for pictures and stuff, it's like, what does it say to you? Okay. So this was a show I did for a former Microsoft executive, and they were talking about how their department had a low satisfaction value. And so this is a different way of showing a chart. And then I go to the next slide, and after working with their team and working on their department and how they get along with other departments, they grew it to 90% satisfaction rate. So unique way of showing statistics. It was fun and engaging. Okay, and then I'm going to show some eye candy, some before and afters. So let's go to the next slide. And this first slide that I'm showing you, we're on slide 61, is a slide I got from a client. This was their title slide. And I'm like, well, we got those white edges. We don't need that. But even the green on the blue is kind of hard to read. How can we make this better? So if we go to the next slide, we found an image that spoke to what they're talking about, living well in the wireless world, okay? And it was a combination of two images we blended together. So this took some time. It's not everyone can do this, but this was something we compiled in Photoshop. So this is a high level graphic, but still you could see how much more impactful this is and how much more it says about who you are when you present something like this, like you're really buttoned up, you really know your business, and you really want them to understand what your business is. Yeah, so the next slide is turn behavior problems into no problem. So go to the next slide, and this is a whole different look, right? Turn behavior problems into no problem. I love this slide. It's I don't know. I just love this slide. Okay, and then we go to the next slide. And this was a person they were talking to, Dr. Peter Aguirre. And this was the slide we were given. And I'm like, okay, how can we make this better? And so if we go to the next slide, we designed a background for them, and we wanted it to be organic and natural. So we went with the green grass, and it's more engaging. It's more consuming. It's easy to consume, I guess. Okay, the next slide, again, we're going through the before and after. This was the slide they gave me, that white background again. And resistance is literally everywhere. So how can we make this slide better? And so we found this image, and right there it just says, yep, we're talking about children and how they resist. And there you go. So I'm going to take a little drink here to catch up with the slides. It's tea time. And then this last one, where you already stressed out, frustrated, or worried parent before COVID, how can we show this better? Can you imagine now? What can we show here that would be more impactful? So here we found an image, put the text in the lower left so that if they want to read the text, they can, but look at her face. When we look at an image, the first thing we look for is their eyes. And we go to their eyes, and are they looking at us, Or if they're not, what are they looking at? And she's like looking into space going, how do I deal with this? And then we see the other person, we see her eyes, and what is she looking at? And then we look at hands. What are the hands doing? You know, how their hands are reacting or whatever tells a whole story. So you can see this is a world. This picture tells a world. It speaks 1,000 words from when you don't have time to speak that. Okay, if we go to the next slide. And then this is called the missing link. So they were talking about the wellness puzzle, right? And the missing link in health. And they talked to this slide, I don't know, probably a minute or two, but you can see when you're looking at this image and you're listening to what they're saying, it's just, you're going to remember so much more. And then we go to the next image. We call them EMFs for electromagnetic frequencies or fields, and EMFs are everywhere. So you can see with a little bit of animation and walking through some stuff, how creative you can get. And then this last one for this particular client was what's going on with all these man-made frequencies that are invisible and may be affecting you. They may be invisible, but you can't see them, smell them, taste them, touch them. You just know they're affecting you. So they're talking about, you know, all the wireless stuff that we're engaging with today and how that might affect your health. So very important. All right, so my last section I'm going to talk about here is tell a story. And when you tell a story, it's like we go into storyland, right? And we're like, oh, I want to hear this, you know, and we remember what they say. And so I'll go to my next slide here. You get a good sense of a slideshow when you look at them in slide sorter view. I like to look at a slideshow and see, okay, what are they saying here? And I can quickly see what they're saying by looking at slide sorter view. And if I look at the slides and I have no idea what they're talking about, that's a great slideshow. Why? Because you don't have to put everything on the slide. You don't have to put all your text on the slide. If you put all your text on the slide, this is what I tell them, then turn your slides on and walk off stage because you're not needed. So they need you to talk to the slides, to talk to the visual, and they need you to tell the story. So when you do this storytelling with these visuals, you'll see the next visual and you'll know what to talk about. And that's where great speakers, when they practice, they'll know when the next slide comes, this is what I'm talking about. So if I go to the next slide, again, another rich image. Look at this image. We immediately go to his eyes, right? And his face, and then he's smiling and he's looking at the customer and she's looking at the product that he handed her. And we look at their hands, and as he's talking about know your customer, this is a marketing conversation, a marketing talk. They may talk about marketing, you know, knowing your customer for 5 minutes, but I could look at this image and see all different things. And as he's telling me about know your customer, I see all the products on the shelf. I see the nice display on the counter. I see how they're interacting with each other. It's just a great image. And these are all easily found images. They're on image banks that are low cost or no cost. They're out there. You just have to, you know, find a way to look for them or look me up and I'll share the image banks that I use. And the next slide is know their demographics and psychographics. What do you know about your customers' demographics and psychographics? So as he's talking about this, obviously we're talking about the different types of demographics and psychographics of our target customer. Okay, and then the next slide. I love this. Offer your customer something they value, something the competition can't or won't provide. So if you look at this image, wow, I love this image. I mean, look at her face and the color and the bags, and her lipstick matches the bags. It's just a great image. And then if we go to the next one, this was a bulleted slide. So we're highlighting the title. The title's down in the lower part. Effective communication is what is remembered and acted upon. So if you click the mouse button through these 4 bullets and walk with me, you've got to entertain, you've got to engage, you've got to inform, and you've got to have a call to action. So this is just another way of creating a bulleted slide. And look at their faces. Again, that boy with his face, and then the other boy talking to him. I don't know. It always brings a smile to my face when I see this image. And then this last image, next slide, is speak the language of the customer. Again, look at her eyes. She's looking right at you. She's got perfect teeth. We took the text and colored the text to match her dark hair. So there's a relation to the text color and the picture. And yes, it's on white. I'm okay with some white slides. It wakes them up, but just don't, inundate them with all white slides. Okay. So let's recap. If we can go to the next slide. So next slide on 84. So let's keep it simple. Limit the amount of text on the slide so that the text you use is nice and big and readable from the back of the room. Okay. And then the next slide is be mindful of your graphics. Find those images that are meaningful and that relate to the subject. And remember, the brain, when we're looking at an image, it takes up 10 times more amount of your brain space to consume that image than words or listening. And so when you think of that, you're going to remember more because it's imbued more in your brain. So that's why you want to tie it with great visuals. Okay, number 3 is we want to avoid the bullets. We showed you some examples of some creative ways of showing bullets. And then number 4, we're on slide 87 now. Be creative. Have fun with this. It's if you're designing your own slides and you don't have fun with it, then call someone like me. Let me do your slides for you. But if you love doing slides, get out there, find some great images. Be simple with your text. Back off from your slide subject matter and see, how can I storyboard this? This is what they do in Hollywood. They don't just turn on the camera and start filming. They have to have a script, so you have your outline, and then they have to have a storyboard so that they know how are they going to block the motion and the movement, and what graphics are they going to show to screen. So storyboard your slides. When you outline it and then you start saying, oh, I think I can have an image here that looks like this, or I'd like to find an image for this here. And it's okay if you can take an image with your phone, use that. That's totally fine. Okay, and then we'll go to the next slide. Tell a story. They're saying now when you're speaking, it's like you want to tell a story, and you might tell strings of stories. I see little vignettes of stories. And when I look at, when I work with a client and they give me their script, I start seeing what is the storytelling and what is the outcome and what actions are going to happen after this talk. Like, where are they going to go with it? What do they want to happen with it? So I always get excited to see, okay, well, what can we create? What do you want to happen after this talk? I love that. So remember, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Tie that picture to your story and have fun with it. All right, so go to the next slide, please. So what would it be like to have that kind of transformation on your next talk? Next slide. Wow. I hope you've learned some valuable stuff today. Presentations look different now, and see where you can improve on your own presentations. Next slide. So imagine you're sitting in front of your computer and you're working on your slides. Go to the next slide. And you have a solution that makes it so much easier. Next slide. So designing impactful slides so that they can captivate and convert will help you to sell your products, services, or your ideas. What results will you produce beyond what you've done before now, and that you're showing up as an expert? So if we go to the next slide. So I'm giving you a free offer, and I call it Rise Above the Rest. Top 5 secrets to create compelling slides that engage. Next slide. So what I show you is I walk you through 5 videos, and we start with how to create your branded template. So if you're going into your slides and you want to work on your own slides, how do you create that branded template? How do you get those colored backgrounds? How do you choose the colors for your text? How do you get your logo on your slides? What if you want your logo on every slide? How do you position that? And then we talk about conveying your text without those boring bullets. I show you the creative ways of showing information without bullets. And then how do you find those compelling photos to increase the memory of the audience so that they remember what you're saying. And then another video, we show statistics to illustrate your points. And then a final video. This is interesting. Most speakers have trouble playing video in their slides. I don't know what the problem is, but if you can add a video, that creates super engagement, especially with sound, like a short clip, 30 seconds. But when you can tie that with your slides, it just gives them that uber wow factor and that engagement. Okay. So next slide. So I have a website to get this free offer. It's at createslidesthatconvert.com and /best-u-expo. And if you go there, you can get those 5 videos and you'll be part of my community. There's no charge to be part of the community, but I also offer a monthly office hours. I call look over my shoulder as I fix your slides. And I let people come in and bring their questions. So if you have a slide, you have a question, you're working on a deck, it's like, what image would I put here? How would I lay this out? We do it live and it's a lot of fun. So check that out too. So next slide. So what results will you produce beyond what you've done before now and that you're showing up as an expert? So I know I went a little quick. I know I talked fast, but I like to show the slides, show the before and afters and get people's reactions. So I hope this was valuable to you. And I hope that you can come into the community and check out my free offer and let's engage together. So I don't know if anybody has any comments or anything, but love to see if I can answer any questions. I know we have a couple more minutes.
Hi, Bridget. Well, thank you. That was great. Really enjoyed your presentation there.
Thank you, Sarah.
So, yeah, I mean, I know that people listening will be fascinated. And so just tell us a little bit more about how they can get a hold of you.
Well, how to get a hold of me. So my email is wow@presentationdesignexpert.com. If you want to email me directly, or just go to the website createslidesthatconvert.com and go for that free offer. You'll get on my list. And okay, you got my email in there. That's great.
The producer on the show is amazing. So yeah, well done, Michael. Thank you for that. Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Have you enjoyed it?
Oh yes, this was fun, and I look forward to seeing some great presentations out there. We've got to abolish this boring slide. We've got to engage our audience, and I hope I could help a little bit in moving that forward.
Sounds amazing. Thank you, Bridget. Thanks for coming on.
All right.
And look forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye. So thanks everybody for being here. It is day 2 and we are kicking off quickly with everything that's going on here at the Best You. And we have the lovely Laura Butler who's joining me as a host today, which I'm super excited about. I'm going to get Laura on in a second to say hi and introduce herself. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I am great. I'm great. I'm so glad you're here to join me all the way from America.
I'm so happy to be here, and I enjoyed that presentation. Very creative slides and very effective.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell everybody about you, Laura, and what you do so that everyone knows.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be. I'm the Best You Legacy Club director in Dallas, Texas, which is where I am now. And I'm with Fusion Consulting, so I do corporate training. I'm also an author, and I focus primarily on professional development training, which is why it's so great to be here, because the Best You Expo, as you know, is the largest professional development expo in the world, with some of the most amazing authors and business leaders. And so it's great information, even for speakers. You know, we learn from each other and we share. So it's just fantastic to be here.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing to have you. And it's been a busy day. We've had some amazing speakers already, and we've still got some great speakers coming up, which I'm really excited about. So at 2 o'clock, top of the hour, we have Dylan Darnaker, who is talking Awakened Wealth, how soulful humans can quickly raise financial frequency and open the portal to high energy money without fear or guilt. Now, doesn't that sound amazing?
It certainly does. It certainly does. And I'm sure he's going to, I will always encourage people to take notes, because it's just fantastic information. It's quite a lot. And, we're presenting so many other speakers. So yes, looking forward to seeing Dylan as well. Yeah, me too. I love that. I love the way that you can combine the money side with a more spiritual approach. I think it's really important as well, because, sometimes if you hold on to money too much, it slips through your fingers. So actually just coming at it from a different perspective, I'm fascinated to see what he has. So stay tuned for that, because that's coming up. Dylan's coming up at 2 o'clock. And then in the meantime, we have some ads for you, which especially featuring one of my favorite personal development gurus in the world. It's Dean Graziosi. He's going to be on the adverts as well. So check him out. I really think he's very inspiring man. Have you seen him, Laura, before? Absolutely. Absolutely. We're always happy to have him at the Best You Expo as well. He's just great. You're going to enjoy it. Yeah, he really is absolutely amazing. So we'll run some ads, and then we'll see you at the top of the hour to introduce Dylan, our next speaker.
The Best You Store, helping you do more, achieve more, be more. Store.thebestyou.co.
Focus on what you want, not what you don't want. That's my
Well, and I
take.
think you bring up a really good point. I mean, one of the things that we do, and oftentimes we don't do it ourselves, which we need to do, and that is, where is it that you want to go? I mean, so often we don't take the time to figure out
Our true purpose.
what's our purpose. We refer to it as, creating our best life blueprint.
What I would say along the journey, the biggest turning point for me is when I realized that I was so used to saying yes. I was saying yes to so many things. It was getting to be overwhelmed and confusion and not know it was clear. Still happens sometimes. I'm not perfect at it. But when I realized, like Warren Buffett says, he says, I say no to everything. And a couple things a year sneak in because they were perfect for my bigger future. So along that journey, if you say, what was the biggest change in my life, is learning to say no. And in your journey, how do you say no? When people say to me, Dean, I'm overwhelmed, or I need a time management course, or I need to fit more time, or I wish I had 48 hours in a day. They don't need time management. They need clarity. They need a vision, because most people walk around knowing what they don't want in life. Like we just literally spend so much time knowing what we don't want. And when we do that, we say yes to too many things. I'm going to tell a quick story, if you don't mind. A good friend of mine, he's involved in his church organization. Him and a bunch of dads take a bunch of 18 to 20-year-old boys whitewater rafting up in Colorado. And I guess rapids go from a 0 to a 5. And they get there and the rapids are a 5. It rained for 2 weeks before. The rapids are crazy. All the dads are nervous, right? They're responsible for all these kids. And the dads are like, I think we should skip it. And the boys are nervous. And then this guide comes out. He's been doing it for 30 years. He goes, dads, don't worry. Boys, you're fine. Get in the rafts. He gets in the raft, and the guide says, see this finger, boys? This is the positive point. He goes, wherever I point, when I point, you paddle your guts out to where I'm pointing, and I promise you it will be fine. He said, I will never point to the rock. I'll never point to the big rapid. I'll never point to the down tree, because if I do, you will look at it, we'll run right into it, and we'll flip over. But that's really a metaphor for life. We're so many times we're pointing, I don't want that income, I don't want that relationship, I don't want. It's like, and I've asked thousands of people this. You could ask somebody, what they don't want out of life, and they will ramble off all the things that aren't working, their wife, their husband, their money, their income. And if you stop them abruptly and go, okay, you don't want that. Tell me right now, really quick, what do you want out of life? I've done this with thousands of people. 9 out of 10 will literally go, blank. they'll say, that's a good question, or I really don't know. So what are you doing? We're in a Ferrari with no GPS going 100 miles an hour, but we don't know where we're going. Why did I take so much time to share that? Because that's one of the biggest secrets of my life. The biggest changer for me are the most successful people I know. When you ask them where they're going, they know just like that. So with that said, instead of just avoiding what you don't want, when you have clarity, and this is a little hack, do this. If you get nothing else out of this interview, do this one thing for me. Pretend it's a year from now, and it's the best year of your life. Let's just pick your finances. It's the best year of your life. You are doing so well financially and in the career that you love that you walk in a room and people don't know if you got a tan, you got a haircut, you've been working out. You just, your wife looks at you and goes, damn, he's sexy. Or your husband looks at you and goes, wow, she looks so beautiful. Like you're in that glow, you're in that groove. And your life, what do you look like in the mirror? What do you feel like? How much money's coming in? Like pretend it's a year rather than trying to look ahead. Sometimes we're so damn busy, we have a dust cloud around us, right? Like we're just trying to handle so much, it's hard to set goals. So pretend it's a year, it's the best year of your life, and just start writing stuff down. And then all of a sudden circle the top ones. And that's really your destination. That can give you part of your vision, part of the clarity of where you want to go. So all the stuff I'm telling you, the reason I loop this so big is when you know where you want to go, then all of a sudden it's easier to say no to the things that don't serve your bigger future, right? If it's not on that list of your perfect life a year from now, then why are you hanging out with your friends talking about negativity? With that group of people that make you feel sad. You're working on that business that hasn't made you money in 10 years and you're not happy with it. Time to shut it down. Time to get rid of that boss that's been making you feel bad about yourself, or that employer or that employee that works for you that makes you feel bad every day. Let it go. Like when you look at that perfect life, if it doesn't fit, it's either a no or get rid of it, right?
We're quick to want to go ahead and come up with all the things that we did wrong and all the reasons that, we were not successful, versus let's look at it from, okay, what are we learning from this? And who can we reach out to and be transparent and just be open and say, hey, I'm stuck. And how would you handle this? And that's what I'm finding from entrepreneurs who've been there and who are successful. They've had failure in their career path. I mean, big time failure.
And a lot of times entrepreneurs are on a very thin line of failure throughout their careers, but because they're putting everything on the line, aren't they? So
everything on the line. And they, because of that passion.
Yeah.
A not to-do list is more important than a to-do list in many cases. So it's not what you say yes to, it's what you say no to, because everything you say yes to, you're saying no to something else. If you say yes to being on Facebook for 2 hours, you might be saying no to spending that time with your children. If you're going to say yes to watching TV, you're going to say no to, maybe exercise. And if you say yes to staying up late, surfing the internet or looking at porn online, you're saying no to sleeping. So that, there's a lot of stuff that people say yes to that isn't serving them, and they wonder why their life is not where they're at. And I'll tell you, it's not a choice at all, because sometimes these are compulsions, which is what addiction is. So yeah, I think what you're doing and what you're providing, people can learn so much just by absorbing the lessons that people are saying, but don't just hear them. You have to pick people that you resonate with, things that you hear, and instead of going shallow with it, go deep. And if there's anything I did, I went really deep with marketing, and I learned it, I applied it, I got a result, and it's changed my life, and it's changed the lives of tens of thousands of other people too.
My passion is to set people free by helping you transform any area of your life more effectively and faster than anything you've tried before. I do this by unique abilities gifted to me through 2 near-death experiences that allow me to help you change your frequency, changing your life.
You got to look at yourself as a brand. A lot of people don't necessarily do that. And in order to stand out, you need to be different. Don't be a copycat. There's a lot of people doing the same kind of things and copying a lot of other people. What you need to start doing is you need to start positioning yourself as a unique individual with unique expertise. There's a lot of people that want to make a difference, but they're not following their own messages. They're not following whatever it is that they preach. So I highly recommend that you walk your talk. You don't copy other people. You take yourself seriously. You take your brand seriously, but you also look at opportunities to either partner with people or find the platforms where you can speak. The platforms where you're going to have hundreds or thousands of people attending. And that's the best way for you to start connecting and meeting and working with individuals. It's the best, it's the easiest way, and it can happen very, very quickly.
Now, the Best You personal and professional development virtual expos are happening globally in 2021. Whether you want to speak, exhibit, or attend, these are online events for all those passionate about living a better life, creating a better world, gaining greater mindfulness and meaning in these new times, and becoming the best version of themselves. Book your speaking slot, your virtual booth, and get tickets to attend now. Are you sick and tired of struggling to get your career to where you want it to be? Working with the right coach can be a life-changing experience, and Bernardo Moya is changing lives all over the world. Learn how to create revenue streams, attract higher qualified clients consistently, market your brand, and promote your business to a global audience. Bernardo is one of the biggest names in the world of personal development. He is an entrepreneur, an author, a speaker, and a founder and chief inspirational officer of the Best You Corporation. So fast-track your career now.
My approach when it comes down to life really is about the holistic approach. And the holistic means is that everything that you do is important for you to become who you need to become. It starts with becoming aware of your thoughts. It starts surrounding yourself with the right people, focusing on the things that are important, building relationships, love. It's all important. It's all part of the process of growing. Life's too short. And if you don't really focus on where you're going and where you want to do and who you want to become, what's going to happen is eventually one day you will regret it. One of the most important questions I ask in the book, my book, the question is, what are you here for? What is your purpose? And we're all here for a reason. You need to understand what that reason is, and you need to start working towards it now.
The Best You is leading the way in the industry of personal and professional growth. Through our magazine, expos, e-learning, TV, club, and awards, The Best You's objective is to help people achieve their dreams, to do more, to be more, to live a life without limits. Join us if you believe in helping and inspiring others, in changing the world, in making it a more just and fair place through education and inspiration. Our goal, everyone, everywhere, now. If you are interested in making a difference, working, partnering, volunteering, supporting, or even licensing The Best You, let's talk. Let's work together and make the world a better place.
The Best You TV, a TV channel with only the best business leaders and influencers ready to help you rise to the top. Available now on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Google Play. Learn and grow from in-depth interviews, documentaries, inspirational talks, and motivational masterclasses from the world's biggest thought leaders, speakers, teachers, authors, coaches, and highly successful business gurus. The Best You TV is now live.
Hey everybody, welcome back to day 2, the Best You Expo. So Laura and I are hosting this stage today, and we are really excited to be announcing some amazing speakers. So we are waiting for our next speaker, but Laura and I are going to have a little chat about the day and what's going on to make sure that you guys are getting everything you need from this. Laura, I know you gave some tips before about making the most of today for everyone that's watching and tuned in. I know a lot of us over here, we're all in lockdown here in the UK, so everyone's at home. They're on their sofas probably. They've interrupted Netflix to watch the Best You Expo today. What would your tips be, being an expert speaker and coach yourself, on how to get the most out of today?
Well, the first thing is it's great that you're all here because there's this fantastic information. I'm so sorry, Sarah, that I missed yesterday. I was lecturing at a university all day, so I'm really sad, but I'm very excited to be here today. Really just have an open mind, listen, get ready to learn, take your notes, and most importantly, start to apply them. You know, we hear some great information all the time, but then, you know, we just never do anything about it. So I would suggest to implement it immediately and make a note of all the names of the speakers, reach out to them, connect with them, start a relationship there. And, you know, you never know where it would lead. We know the benefits of that. And Sarah and I, as she mentioned, we're both speakers. You know, we do a lot of planning. In fact, Sarah has a retreat coming up as well, don't you, Sarah?
Yeah, I have my Heartbreak to Happiness virtual retreats that I'm running in these days, since we can't get to be there together anymore, unfortunately. So I'm doing them virtually, so live webinars with me. Plus, on top of that, we have my video program to support, give you all the tools and techniques to really heal from your heartbreak. And give you the tools to cope better with your breakup. So yeah, it's a 6-week program, and I'm looking forward to your women's conference that's coming up. Is that in March?
Yes, it's March 26th and 27th. We're very excited. We have over 25 speakers ranging in so many different industries. It's called the Foundation Women's Conference. And really, it's to just focus on the issues women are faced with. And, you know, we're going to be providing some amazing information from reproductive health to business, to funding available, to, you know, nutrition, to your brand, you know, how to better position yourself for success, financial planning, how to become debt free and establish financial freedom. So we're very excited about it. We're very impressed with the lineup of speakers that we have, and it will be here in Dallas, Texas. But as you know, everything is virtual. So, you know, it will be on Eventbrite, and so people can find out more about that.
Well, I can't wait for that. Sign me up. I will be there. It sounds amazing. Great. Now, amazing is the word I would use to describe our next guest, Dylan Denecker. He's going to be talking to us about awakened wealth. The title of his talk today, and I'm super excited to be even hearing this. He's an amazing guy. How soulful humans can quickly raise financial frequency and open the portal to high energy money without fear or guilt. Now, doesn't that just sound amazing? So Dylan infuses the energy of love with the energy of money in a mission to create an economy absent of fear, greed, and scarcity thinking. Well, wouldn't that be a nice place to be? He was born to refugee parents, expelled from their homeland, experiencing extravagant wealth as a financial trader, and then extreme poverty as a United Nations volunteer. He has navigated the material and spiritual dimensions of money more than most. Drawing on his Vedic influences, deep knowledge of global economics, and personal experience of guilt-driven giving and self-sabotaging consumption, he uses his 12-step method to help soulful humans quickly raise financial frequency and open the portal to high energy money without fear or guilt. So I am excited to welcome to the stage Dylan. Welcome, Dylan.
Oh, Sarah, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Laura, brilliant to hear you talking about the event that you have running. And one of the things I was talking to my wife about just a second ago, in fact, before we came on, was what I'm recognizing is a massive rise of the divine feminine energy. And if you look at the speakers that we've got at the Best You this year, what Bernardo's put together, what you guys have brought together, I just see this huge tidal wave of divine feminine energy rising. So it is beautiful to be here with you. It's beautiful to share whatever I can in this new epoch of our civilization.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Best You, actually, Bernardo's brainchild here, he's putting together the Best You for Women, which is going to be an international global event in 2022. So definitely something that he's picking up on as well, Dylan. So yeah,
Fabulous.
absolutely.
And you know, actually, that is kind of the it's really the golden thread running even through this concept of awakened wealth, running through this idea of high energy money. And it's not that we've got kind of, you know, masculine and feminine money, but it is this idea that we can kind of sow through the fabric of our species compassion and courage and congruence and creativity, which conventionally have come from the feminine energy. And I think what we need to do is kind of, we need to bring the two together. So, you know, the masculine energy needs to find its feminine, the feminine energy has already found its strength. And I think what we'll see over this next epoch of our civilization, of our evolution, is a lot of the infrastructures, whether they're economic, whether they're social, whether they're political, will now become kind of the epitome of what human beings should be: courageous and congruent, creative, compassionate. So it's a real joy to be here this year. I think I've wanted to speak at the Best You for at least 3 or 4 years now, but every February I've been in Tenerife running or co-running a speaker training, so I've never been able to make it. And I think serendipitously that this year was the year for me to be here, because I think this year we're seeing a massive transition in energy across the world, and we're going to have those people that unfortunately are kind of caught back and held back by that emotion of fear, and we're going to have others that really rise, that really step up into their power and grasp that opportunity to be really courageous in an environment where actually it's pretty tough to be courageous. So yeah, thank you so much indeed.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dylan. And we're so excited about your talk. So we'll be here listening and supporting as always.
Fabulous.
And
So
jump on at the end to say hi. All right.
That'd be really great. Thank you so much, guys. So for those of you just joining, Dylan Danicha, it is a real joy to be here with you. Now, I don't know about you, but certainly this last period of our what I can only call rapid evolution has been a period that I think has forced a lot of us to ask the questions about kind of what's so important about life, what's so important about relationships, what's so important about business, what's so important about me and my person, purpose, my legacy, what is so important about money. Now, you will notice behind me that the shelves are empty. And I think the empty shelves, my wife and I are also in a period of transition. We're moving house pretty soon. And I think the empty shelves are really a metaphor for a world in transition, and perhaps you as an individual in transition. And what is the thing that's going to help you to kind of bridge the gap between where you are right now and where you want to be? Yes, it's going to be a whole series of systems and strategies and processes. Yes, it's going to be really keeping in check with your mindset. Yes, it's going to be really diving deep into your spiritual practices. It's going to be, periods of introspection blended with periods of execution and activity. But the thing that's really going to help you through this, I feel, is your ability to stay courageous, to stay congruent, to stay creative, and to stay compassionate in a world that is really encouraging us to do quite the opposite. And I feel, as an economist, as a financial trader, but also as a United Nations volunteer and a philanthropist, I've seen both ends of the money spectrum. And I feel that the global economy has been designed in such a way that it holds us in fear. It shackles us to kind of the slave post of fear. And I studied economics years and years and years ago, and a couple of the first things that were written on the blackboard, it tells you how old I am, it was a blackboard, not a whiteboard, not a flip chart, not an iPad, not an electronic whiteboard. It was a blackboard, with squeaky chalk and everything. And one of the first things that the lecturer wrote on this blackboard, three things in fact. Number one, economics is the efficient distribution of scarce resources. Number two, economics is the mediation of supply and demand. And number three, economics is really driven by the rational decision-making of human beings. So essentially what they're saying is that resources are scarce. it is the supply of a good versus the demand of a good that sets its price. And thirdly, we as economic players, and that's what you are, that's what I am, whether you're a business person, whether you have a day job, even whether you're unemployed, doesn't matter where you are, we are all economic players. And I'm going to tell you how the economy impacts human evolution right at the end. But let's go to the process first. So these three things, that, you know, the world is scarce of resources, that prices are set by supply and demand, and number three, that we are rational economic players, just didn't make sense to me, because, you know, I see a world that is abundant of resources. I see a world where prices are not set by who needs them, what they can afford to pay, who's got them, and what they can afford to sell them at. I see a world that's driven by you know, who the highest price that the seller can get. And it doesn't really matter whether the people can afford them or need them or not. It's just the seller drives the marketplace, drives prices up and up and up. And so I see that there isn't a kind of a mediation between supply and demand. And I also see, through my study in a subject matter called behavioral economics, that we are just so not rational. I want you to think back to maybe your last 10 purchases, your last 10 financial transactions. And maybe I just want you to think about how rational were you in your thought process when you bought those things, or when you invested in those things, or when you consume those things. Isn't it true to say that so many of our financial decisions are driven by emotion, of course, and driven by irrational emotion? Now, there's a paradigm that suggests we are predictably irrational. So even if we're irrational, we can still control that rationality, but control the decision making by understanding where we're irrational. So I'll get to that in a second. What I'm getting at right now is that these three factors, the fact that we have abundant resources, but we're programmed to believe that they're scarce, the fact that we have, you know, the ability to feed every human being on the planet, we have the ability to give every human being on the planet, you know, clean drinking water, we have the ability to give every human being on the planet shelter and food, and essentially get them beyond the stages of survival. We've got all that. So why are half of the world's population living in abject poverty? Well, it's not because prices are mediated by supply and demand. It's because prices are driven by the manufacturers, the producers, the people in control. And so what I see is that so many of us are kept in fear. So many of us are locked in fear. And I also saw over the last year, you know, through this kind of pandemic, I'm sure there's other words for pandemic and scamdemic and all these other crazy words. I'm going to call it a pandemic. So this is not a political discussion on what we think it is, but we saw, didn't we, over this last year, didn't we see that it didn't matter how much money you had or you didn't have? Like, markets plummeted in March. Why did markets plummet in March? Because everybody was fearful. It didn't matter whether you had money or you didn't have money. If you had it, you were fearful of losing it. If you didn't have it, you were fearful of surviving and never having enough. Now, that is also true on a day-to-day basis. It's just on a day-to-day basis, the impact of that fear isn't seen at such an extreme level. Now, I can't see the chat box. Let me just hit the chat box button. I know that there's many of you that are watching on YouTube and StreamYard. So it'd be interesting to kind of get your thoughts on this. If you're on the chat boxes on YouTube, if you're on the comments box, if you're on the StreamYard chat box, do feel free to interact, do feel free to ask questions, and we'll try and get to those at the end. But in essence, didn't you see over the last year that everybody was locked in fear? So what was the difference between those individuals who rose up into their power and not made the most of fear, but in essence faced everything and rose? They didn't forget everything and run. They faced everything and rose. What was the difference between them? I think it's four things. And those four things, those four criteria really can be created, can be practiced, can be embedded into your day-to-day activities through 12 behaviors. So that's really what we're going to talk about now. We're going to talk about the four criteria. And we've mentioned them already, haven't we? We've mentioned courage, turning your fear into courage. Next, turning the illusion into congruence. Next, turning your destructive financial behaviors into creative financial behaviors. And finally, and this is the one I think that people have perhaps the most difficulty making sense of, but turning your coercive behaviors into compassionate behaviors. And I'm not suggesting you're a coercive individual, but through our consumption, our conservation, our contribution, we can be coercive. So really, what we're getting at here are the 4 pillars of creating high energy money, of creating a financial abundance in your life that is guilt-free, that is fear-free, that is fear of scarcity, that is free of scarcity thinking. And there's really 2 types of individuals who seek financial abundance. There are the individuals who, and you will hopefully find yourself in one of these camps, there's the individuals who do all of the inner work. And what I mean by inner work, you know, we do all of the law of attraction work, we do the manifesting work, we create and we set intention, and we work on our manifestation skills, and we do all the inner work. You know, we work on our levels of self-deservedness and self-worth, and we try and, you know, really kind of iron out the wrinkles of all the trauma and the traumatic experiences we had when we were young that program that lack of self-worth into us, that program the lack of deservedness into us. So you get individuals that really work on the inner part of financial abundance. And then you get individuals who work on the outer aspect, the outer game, if you like, of financial abundance. And this is the making and the managing and the multiplying money. And in essence, never the twain shall cross. So what we quite often find is that you don't get this kind of bringing together in a single coherent model, in a single coherent series of behaviors and activities, the 2. Now, we're going to do that in a second. But before we do that, let me talk to you about why it's so important. See, the inner work, actually, I want you to write this down. Frequency is currency. Frequency is currency. And then underneath that, I want you to write down currency is frequency. And I want you to draw a circle around that. See, those 2 phrases, if all you take from this talk are those 2 phrases, what you will find is your ability to bring together all the pieces of practical and process work that you need to do, and all the pieces of metaphysical paradigm work that you need to do. Frequency is currency. So when you're vibrating high as an individual, when you are vibrating at the energy signature that is above courage, so above courage, you find courage and love and joy and bliss, enlightenment. When you're vibrating above the energy signature of courage, you have now the frequency to go and create the currency in the world. You have the frequency to go and enjoy currency in the world. So you can create it, and you can consume, and you can have all the material experiences and the philanthropic impact you want. But the frequency has to come first. And what we quite often find, particularly in a time when the economy is kind of just on the precipice of a big downturn, you find that fear is high. Now, fear is one of the emotions that sits below the energy signature of courage. So below that energy signature, you get fear and greed and guilt and shame and worry and anxiety. And you get all these negative energy emotions. And what that does, it lowers your frequency as a human being, and you're not able then to go and create the currency in the world. And hopefully that makes sense to you. Why in the chat box if that makes sense to you? Again, please do use the chat box, use the comments box. It'd be really helpful to see what you're thinking about this and how you feel about this and what your personal experiences are around this. So that's really the difference between those individuals who are able to face everything and rise, and those who forget everything and run. It is your ability to maintain a high energy signature, to maintain a high vibrational frequency that is going to allow you to spot the opportunities, that is going to allow you to set really strong intention, that is going to allow you to work through the manifestation cycle until you get to the point of materially producing the things that you want. And the things that you want might be a new home, a new car. They might be money to invest in your business. They might be money to buy the kids all the homeschooling stuff that they need. It doesn't really matter what you want. It doesn't matter how much you want to give and who you want to give it to. We'll kind of come on to that in a second. But the frequency comes first. So the frequency gives you currency. But also, as you start to create more currency, as you start to make more and give more and love more, and make more of an impact on the lives of other people and have more of an influence on the evolution of our species, as you begin to do that, this is the exciting part, that comes full circle, and it keeps your frequency high. Now what happens in the, in the advent or in the incoming of any external shocks, as you get an economic shock, or you get a business shock, or you get a relationship shock, because your frequency is already way above now the frequency of courage, and courage is really where we start. Enlightenment is where we end. Because you're already above the frequency of courage, those external shocks, they can't impact you. They can't drop you back down to guilt and shame and worry and scarcity and anxiety, because you've programmed yourself to stay vibrating high. And I know that there's so much talk about vibing high and keeping your energy high, and there's a lot of talk around that. But what I'm hopeful to give you today is a 12-step process. I'm not here to sell anything other than the idea that frequency is currency, currency is frequency. And when you are able to define money as a flow of love, a force for good, and fuel for your impact on the world, you will never feel the destructive psychological and practical impact of no money, of financial poverty, because you will be maintaining a high frequency. You will be out there creating the currency that you want to. And this really comes before any system, any strategy. Now, perhaps you've already invested in, as I did, property training courses and trading courses. I was a trader before I was a trader student before I was a trader, if you like. So, property training courses and trading courses and how to invest in gold and silver and all these kind of courses, how to build an internet marketing business and how to make money on Facebook and Twitter and all these crazy things. Perhaps you've already invested in lots of these kinds of courses. Perhaps you've been trying really hard to, make sense of getting your business reputation built on Facebook ads. Perhaps you tried really hard to get clicks to your landing page and conversions and sales and all of that cool stuff that you and I do, but it hasn't quite worked. And a lot of the reason it hasn't quite worked is not because necessarily the systems don't work, but because maybe you're just not approaching them fearlessly. You're not approaching them with courage and congruence and creativity and compassion. And that's really where we now move to. So 4 things we're going to do. We're going to look at turning your fear into courage, particularly in the space of finance. We're going to look at turning your illusions into congruence. And these are illusions that are programmed into you by the world outside. We're then going to look at how to turn your destructive habits into very creative habits. And then we're going to look at how to turn your coercive impact on the world into a very compassionate expression of the very best of you. And what you're going to find at the end of these 12 steps is a cohesive, coherent methodology that's practical enough that you can start acting upon it right now. And by the way, you'll see a ticker, I think, at some stage in the talk that is going to give you access to our next 5-day, what I call the Love Money Miracle Experiment. It's the biggest experiment globally of its kind. And what I seek to do is to create a world where money really equals, like I said, the flow of love. It equals a force for good. It equals fuel for your impact. So we want to raise the vibration of money across the world. And you're going to get an opportunity to join that 5-day totally free training at some stage today. You'll see a ticker at some stage. So, by the way, guys, in terms of timekeeping, Sarah, if you're watching, Laura, if you're watching, do feel free just to jump on when I'm done, because otherwise I probably will be here all day. So I love sharing this stuff. Hopefully it's proving to be useful to everyone watching. So number 1, turning your fear into courage. How do you do that? Remember, this is the inner work. These first 6 steps of 12 are the inner work, what I call kind of the metaphysical expression of you. This is how you express yourself as a spiritual, beautiful soul. But you do that, number one, by being able to accept the world as it is, and to accept you as you are, and to rise from that point. So number 1, accepting the world as it is, accepting you as you are, and being able to rise from there. Now, isn't that just so hard to do? Isn't that difficult in an environment where all you ever see is a world that you want to improve? all you ever see is a human being that perhaps didn't make the right decisions, that perhaps languishes in regret, perhaps languishes in resentment, perhaps is kind of future, fantasizing about the future, so stuck in the future. Isn't accepting you as you are, the world as it is, actually one of the hardest things to do? It really is. But that you must do. And once you're able to do that, then you can move on to step 2. Now, look, accepting the world as it is, accepting you as you are, is not about saying, yeah, the world is rubbish and I can't do anything about it. I am rubbish and I can't do anything about it. You know, that's not why you're here at the Best You Expo, right? Because you want to have an impact on the world. You want to change your life. You want to make your life and your family's life and your life experience better. And you want to make the world a better place, I'm sure. You know, Bernardo attracts these kinds of really beautiful, soulful people into his community, and I'm pretty certain that's you. So this isn't about saying, yes, it's rubbish and I can't do anything about it. This is about saying, look, I accept that we are where we are because I can't do anything about where we are right now. But what I can do is figure out where we're going. What I can do is have an impact moving forward. Does that make sense? Why in the chat box, if that makes sense to you, that you can't do anything about how we got here. And even if you could, that would be us living in regret that we didn't do it sooner, right? But we can't do anything now because we're here. And that's what acceptance really is. It's about saying, I'm here. The world is here. I am here. And I will rise from here. And that moves you on to behavior number 2. And behavior number 2 is your ability to stay in the present moment. So it's the ability of awareness, the practice of awareness. Now, I use behavior and practice and ability interchangeably. I probably shouldn't, because that might be a little bit confusing. If you think about these as behaviors or practices. So practice number 2 is the practice of awareness. It is your kind of choice every minute of every day to stay in the now, not to be regretting the past or be resentful of the past, not to be fantasizing about the future. Sure, we all have times in our lives, at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the week, at the end of a quarter, or once a year when you're setting your 10-year plan. We all have times when we're fantasizing about the future, but those should be programmed into your goal setting periods, right? So we do that on a 4-day program called the Enigma Experience, and it runs once a year, and we forward project all of our successes. And then we break that down into 90-day goals, and then into monthly goals, and into weekly goals, and into daily actions. And what that allows you to do is to absolutely stay focused on what needs to be done in the here and now. And every time you catch yourself fantasizing about the future, take that fantasy, as long as it's not a fear, take that fantasy, put it in a beautiful, imaginary velvet box, and then come back to the here and now. If you find yourself regretting the past and regretting the future, it's a pretty tough thing to do. If you find yourself regretting the past or resenting some of the things that happened to you in the past, and look, you're not alone. We're all in that space. I'm not absolutely immune from regret and resentment. There's many things I wish I'd done sooner. There's many things I wish I hadn't done at all. Lots of business partnerships that were disastrous for my soul. And sure, it's easy to fall into resentment, especially when the whole world is living under the crust of fear and things aren't maybe going your way. Isn't it so easy to fall into regret and resentment, because it highlights maybe what you haven't got and what you didn't do. But each time you find yourself falling into that space, you take yourself back to acceptance and you say, look, my role is to accept the world for what it is, accept me for who I am, and from there I will rise. And then you plug into awareness, into that present moment. So you've got acceptance, that then allows you to practice awareness in the here and now. Can you see, if you weren't accepting of the world and if you weren't accepting of you as you are, actually awareness is really tough, isn't it? Staying in the present moment when you've got all this other stuff going on, because you cannot accept you and the world for where you are and where it is. It's really hard to stay in the present moment, isn't it? So you've got acceptance, then awareness. The third aspect, or the third kind of component of turning your fear into courage, is appreciation. And I think appreciation is underrated, and dare I say it, at the biggest personal development conference on the planet, dare I say it, I do feel that gratitude is overrated. And the reason I feel gratitude is overrated is because I don't think we practice it in the way that it is intended to be practiced. See, gratitude works really well when you are able to feel, the positive energy that being thankful kind of is supposed to give. Because quite often, we just write down 3 things that we're grateful for in a hope and a wish that it might make us feel better at some stage in the day. But actually, the most powerful form of gratitude is when you're able to really plug yourself into the emotion of feeling thankful. I prefer to practice appreciation. And all I'm doing when I'm practicing appreciation is simply allowing myself to say, look, I am the product of everybody who came before me and everybody in my life right now who is in some way, shape or form helping me to walk the path to the next stage. And it's appreciation, I find, is a lot less stressful. I find it's a lot less kind of, there's a lot less pressure on having to appreciate things. I can wake up this morning, I woke up this morning and I appreciated Bernardo, and I appreciated Farah, and I appreciated Amelia, I appreciated the couple of hundred people that commented on my Facebook post, and I appreciated everybody in my new kind of Instagram family for supporting this event. So appreciation, I find, is kind of much less intense than gratitude, and it's also an easier place to find in your heart. I can appreciate my grandfather, I can appreciate my uncles, I can appreciate all these people that came before me, my mother, my father. It's an easier place to be. Having to find deep gratitude for things every day, I found really stressful, because I was just kind of, it was an academic exercise. Because when I can plug into appreciation, not only am I appreciating everything that came before me, but I'm now seeing myself as a product of all of that appreciation. Does that make sense? Why in the chat box if that makes sense to you? Because the start point of appreciation is, who am I thankful to and what am I thankful for being the human being I am right now? And remember, if you are not able to be aware in the present moment and you're not able to accept yourself for who you are, actually appreciation is really tough. So acceptance comes first, then awareness, and then appreciation. Now, if you practice those 3 behaviors, or if you execute on those 3 practices every day, and you keep bringing yourself back to those, very quickly you will find that the fear just evaporates away, absolutely evaporates away. So I want you to think about this model as a circle with 4 quadrants. So I want you to think about the model as a circle with 4 quadrants. And we've just covered quadrant 1, acceptance, awareness, and appreciation. That's how you turn your fear into courage. And now we're moving on to quadrant 2. And here is where you start turning the illusion into congruence. Congruence in your thoughts, your words, and your right action. Now, what you've been able to do by turning your fear into courage is, in essence, without kind of getting too esoteric, what you've been able to do in that first quadrant is remove the fog from around your crown chakra. So your crown chakra, which kind of sits on top of your head, is what receives essentially wisdom from the cosmos. Now, I don't know kind of how deep down the rabbit hole you've gone. I have spent years going deep down the rabbit hole, but in essence, I absolutely firmly believe that, everything is manifested in my brain from the cosmos. And, when I'm in fear, anxiety, guilt, shame, what I'm not able to do is even hear those messages. I'm not able to kind of tap into that flow of intelligence that is constantly streaming at my crown chakra. And so what I decided was to embody these practices of acceptance and awareness and appreciation to make sure that that fog is completely evaporated away. There is no fog above my crown chakra, and that's what it will help you to do. And then what you can start doing is start becoming more congruent in thought, in word, and in right action. And that starts, number 1, by being able to set for yourself a robust identity that comes from within. Now, this identity is quite often programmed into us by other people, that maybe love us and care for us and want the best for us, or maybe don't. It's programmed into us by, that constant stream of what's the constant stream of regret, as I basically tend to call it, which is the social media feed. I regret I didn't work hard enough on my body, so I don't look that, or maybe I didn't work hard enough on my business, so I haven't got that success. I heard a quote actually just this morning from a friend of mine, and he said to me, social media is a bit like looking in the fridge and seeing the same things that you don't want to eat. But because you look in the fridge so much, all of a sudden you start consuming things that you didn't want to consume when you first looked in the fridge. And isn't that quite often what social media is like? And what that does to you is it starts programming you with an identity that is not yours. Now, here's the thing. If you're not in a state of appreciation and you cannot accept you and the world for where it is and where you are, and you're not able to stay aware in the present moment, isn't it easier for external forces to shape your identity for you? And that's why that first quadrant really has to come first. As you start turning the illusions that are programmed into you into congruence, the first step is to set a solid, robust identity for yourself that comes from within. Now, that identity will be one identity in your intimate relationship. It will be one identity for your tribe. It will be one identity at work. It will be one identity with your children. For example, I'm not saying be different people in different spots, but what I'm saying is use the appropriate best part of you for the relationship. So if you're a lawyer, for example, at work, you're not going to come home and start interrogating the children. You can be an amazing lawyer at work, but you're not going to bring that best part of you home and start interrogating the children. I don't know, maybe you do need to interrogate the children, I don't know. But does that make sense? So this is not about being different. This is not about being duplicitous. This is about being the best part of you at the moment that the best part of you is needed. So you've got different identities that you pick and choose from for the appropriate time. Like, now is not the time for me to be all soft and cuddly and curl up on the sofa with you, as I will do with my wife later this evening. Now is the time for me to be the very best part of me in this identity. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And identity is really interesting because quite often when we think about different identities for different circumstances, and why in the chat box, actually, if you felt this, immediately you think, well, I don't want to be duplicitous. I am who I am. I thought that's what acceptance was about. It is. But identity is about finding the best part of you and shaping the best part of you and owning the best part of you for each particular aspect of life that you find. And of course, we're rushing through these 12 steps, so I really want to get the whole model to you. But as I said, we do run a 5-day training. It's totally free access. It's part of a huge money energy experiment that we're running, biggest experiment of its kind. So do please, if you see the link scrolling on the bottom, go there. We did do some tests on the page earlier, actually. And, there were about 10 or 20 of us, 10, 15 of us trying to log on at the same time. So it does get a bit slow when the traffic is high, but keep trying and you'll get through. So identity, the first step of turning the illusions into congruence. Next, now that you have an identity that comes from within, now you can set really solid intention. Intention that is yours, not intention that's been programmed into you by outside forces. And then you get 5 years down the line and realize, well, actually, I didn't really want this anyway. I don't really know why I've been working so hard towards this. Or you find yourself in a relationship that you thought you wanted because the outside world kind of programmed you subconsciously. Partly you don't even know when this programming is happening, because the outside world programmed you to get into this relationship or get into this business or do whatever it was that it programmed you to do. Now, when you find that your intention is built on robust identity, and that is built on your appreciation, on your level of awareness and your acceptance, you find that the intention is yours. And finally, now you can start really developing and trusting and listening to and learning from your intuition. So you've got acceptance, awareness, appreciation. That's how you turn your fear into courage. Next, you have how to turn your illusions into congruence. You have setting identity. Identity is the thing that will take you everywhere. Next, your identity allows you to set solid intention from the heart. And finally, and actually there's another element of that, it allows you to receive the wisdom that will allow you to set the intention from the heart. And then it's about really developing, trusting your intuition. And this is where most people really fail when it comes to money decisions. Now, you'll notice that we haven't really talked about money yet, because money, if you think about, I want you to write this down, MONEY, my own natural energy yield. My own natural energy yield. MONEY. Money is just the yield of your natural energy signature. And here's the thing, these 6 behaviors that will allow you to keep your frequency high, they are the product of, you know, a decade of research into the law of attraction and the law of resonance and the law of vibration and personal development and dealing with self-worth issues and deserving. I've had them all as a trader, as a volunteer in Rwanda, giving all my money away, coming back at 33, absolutely spiritually, financially, emotionally broken. You know, on my mother and father's living room floor, literally bawling my eyes out, and they've been amazing to me in my life. And my now wife has just been phenomenal in helping me work through all these issues, and always feeling like I'm not enough to make the impact on the world that I want to, always feeling like I haven't got enough, or I haven't done enough, or, you know, I'm not ready to make the impact on the world that I want to. And I don't know, maybe you're there as well, you know, in this space where you really want to make an impact on the world, but you just feel like perhaps you're not quite enough. And no matter what personal development work you do, it just highlights the gaps. No matter what law of attraction and inner work you do, it doesn't seem to work. Well, MONEY, my own natural energy yield. These first 6 practices are about allowing you to keep your energy high, to keep your vibrational frequency high, because vibrational frequency attracts the type of money and the amount of money that you bring into your life. If you're you know, vibrating at the frequency of fear, you will attract fearful money into your life, and fearful money in your life will go very, very quickly. And maybe you've already experienced this. So those first 6 behaviors, practices, are really important to keep you vibrating above the frequency of courage. And you can see that's where we start in the first quadrant. Now you get to the back 6. So this is where everybody that's done the inner work perhaps starts to feel a bit of friction, perhaps starts to feel repelled. And maybe all the people that have done the outer work found that first 6 things like, oh my God, do I really have to do that today? I'm not really too sure that I want to light candles and wear beads and be barefoot in the sand. But actually, it's not about those things. It is about understanding you as a metaphysical expression of the cosmos. And the back half is about understanding the material experience of life that you want. You might want to write those 2 things down: metaphysical expression and material experience. And this is where you start getting to these 2 ideas of turning your destructive habits into creative habits, and about turning your coercive impact on the world, and it's usually an unintended coercive impact, into a very intended and conscious impact in the world. So you can be what I call a net positive human. So you can be the kind of individual that when you fall off the end of the planet, you can rest assured in the knowledge that you have left people, planet, flora and fauna all in a better state than which you found them. And so the first part of that is understanding what your destructive habits are. And remember, we talked earlier, right at the beginning, about this idea that we're rational human beings. Well, we're not. We're very irrational. But in the field of behavioral economics, which is a field that I've studied for around about 7 or 8 years now, after my first degree in economics, behavioral economics says that we are predictably irrational. And that's really where the first part of turning your destructive habits into creative habits comes. So that 3rd quadrant now is destruction to creation. So we've had fear to courage, illusion to congruence, and now we've got destruction to creation. Habit number 1, it is your ability to make solid financial decisions. Now, we actually have a model, which is the money mind model, MONEYMIND. It's the money mind model, which essentially has distilled the 9 most destructive financial habits that most people have from the field of behavioral economics. So it's things like, who are you listening to? Who's the messenger? That's one of the M's. It's things like, what are your norms? That's that's the N. What are your defaults? What do you do when you're feeling stressed? That's the D. And there's a whole load of others. There's 9, money, mind. But in essence, the behavior, the practice of making really conscious financial decisions is the first step to turning destructive financial habits into creative habits. Now, notice we're not talking here about budgeting and spreadsheets and cash flow management and management accounts and tax and all that kind of stuff. Yes, that's important. But no matter what you do with those systems, if you still make bad decisions, and what I mean by bad decisions is you don't make the decisions to act when you should. You do make the decisions to act when you absolutely shouldn't. You invest when you should not. You save when you should spend. You consume when you should save. If you're not able to be conscious of those things, then of course it doesn't matter what you do with the systems. Money is always going to be flowing out quicker than it's flowing in. And so step one is really about being conscious in your decision making. Step number two is about understanding how to set financial direction. So again, we've got an 8-part model, and this is where you move from cash flow negative to what I call legacy leaving wealth. And you know, the bottom half of that model, in essence, the first 4 steps are really stressful and you've got to work pretty hard at them. But then as soon as you break through the 4th step and you start delivering on your dharmic purpose, that's when life gets really exciting. And you know, when I met my wife, I was around £60,000 in debt. We met at the back end of 2010, and I spent the next year in 2011. I was working in and out of Africa at the time. Did a lot of work for the Digital Africa Summit. And we work with tech companies and really using tech to bridge the gaps between rich and poor. But after a few years of that and seeing that, you know, we're on the front line of poverty, but yet I'm working for the top 1%, it just really messed with my brain. And I hadn't done all of this work that I'm sharing with you that I have since done. And so I decided to give up all of my paid work in Africa and go and volunteer for the United Nations. So Priya and I, my wife and I, met in December 2010, had our first date, January 22nd, 2011. I spent the first year of our relationship popping off to East Africa, Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, mainly Rwanda, volunteering for the United Nations, but ending up giving all my money away. And that was absolutely the epitome of irrational financial decision making. Does that make sense? So I'm illustrating the point. I was £60,000 in debt, yet my guilt at seeing the kind of the epitome of human suffering, my guilt was leading me to take more money out of my already depleted pot, my already high debt level. I was adding to that level, running up my credit line so that I could give money away to people who I thought needed it more than the banks, not really thinking about when I'm going to pay it back or how I'm going to pay it back, just having faith that maybe one day I would. Now £100,000 in debt. I've got no access to any money left. I've got to hitchhike across the Rwanda-Kenya border, got my return ticket home from Nairobi, but didn't have enough money for an internal ticket from Rwanda to Kenya. Actually got a lift with one of our coffee cooperative lorries, which was hugely embarrassing, but I got it. And my point here is that that was a really difficult period of time for me. And maybe you go through difficult periods because you weren't conscious of the decisions you were making with money. So the first step to turning your destructive behaviors to creative behaviors is understanding how to make better financial decisions. And that really is about understanding how the human brain works with decision making. You know, what are your triggers? How does the external world trigger you? You know, how do buy one, get one free offers work on the human brain? And that's all the field of behavioral economics. So number 2, turning your destructive habits into creative habits, how to set effective financial direction. And it's about saying, how do you move from cash flow negative to legacy leaving wealth? Number 3, this is a bit that I find really quite exciting from my economics background, and it's actually what allowed me to just go underground for the whole last 12 months to bring everything I know together, all of my spiritual practices or all of my kind of inner work practices with everything I know about economics and finance and the markets. And that's what allowed me this is what allowed me to go underground for the year. Bringing it together was this idea of diversification. So how do you set up your asset portfolio? I know that for a lot of people, this is just going to sound like, oh my God, this is so boring, but this is critical and it's so easy. How do you set up your asset portfolio so that it protects you long term? When we went into lockdown last March, my wife's business shut down. She does tattooed eyebrows, both as a practitioner, and she coaches other artists to build their businesses. Our businesses shut down, and we wanted to look back on lockdown as a period of giving. And had we not established our asset portfolio in a way that was not at risk. It was not highly leveraged. There were assets in there that went up during the first part of lockdown. There were other assets that went down in value, but it all balanced out. The cash flow was guaranteed and so on. By the way, we just took the keys on March the 12th of our new, it's not new home, it's an 1800s build that we're renovating. But we just took that on 4 days before lockdown. And the reason I share this with you is because it's the diversification that affords you that protection. That's what's going to create your legacy for you. That's what's going to give you the peace of mind and the security that you want. And then that's going to allow you to take risks in the rest of your world. It's going to allow you to give more money away. It's going to allow you to take risks in your business. It's going to allow you to do all sorts of things that you might not have done before because you didn't have that peace of mind, or you did and it was a reckless decision because you were depleting your stocks. Hopefully that makes sense. So why in the chat box if that makes sense. So that's the third aspect of turning destructive behaviors into creative behaviors, or your destructive habits into creative habits, and that is diversification. So you've got effective decision making, you've got effective or efficient decision making, effective direction setting, and well allocated assets through diversification. Now you come on to the fourth quadrant. By the way, why in the chat box if this is useful to you. You will find me across social media at Soul Money Maven. My DMs are always open. So if you find me on Instagram, my account on Instagram is pretty new. My account on Facebook is at its limits. I'm kind of driving people to Instagram. If you find me on Instagram at Soul Money Maven, my DMs are open. Any questions at all, please do reach out to me if you're watching this live or if you're watching this on the recording. And if you can't find me on social, please reach out to Bernardo or Amelia or Farah and the team at Best You, and they will certainly connect us. And I really want to connect with you. I want to understand what you're going through right now and how we can use these 12 steps to help you just kind of feel the level of high energy money in your life that I think we all deserve and that the world deserves, because now we get to the fourth quadrant. And this is where you start really expressing the very best of you. This is where you start taking all of the inner work. You start taking all the money that you've made and managed and multiplied in that third quadrant. And you now start making choices, 3 behaviors, 3 practices, choices to consume, to contribute, and to conserve the planet. You start making choices that are run from your values, not from your pocket. So if you want to go and buy the copper cup because you want to reduce the amount of plastic that you're putting out in the world, you can buy the copper cup. And I know it's a small example, but in essence, it's an example that's right in front of my face. If you want to go and buy the electric car because you want to reduce your carbon footprint, now you buy the electric car without even thinking about the money. And on the flip side of that, so I have always wanted, when I was young, we grew up in a council estate, just not far from here, actually. Now, I always used to want to be the guy in the big convertible sports car. Never had the money for a big convertible sports car. So I like big convertible sports cars. But what I'm able to do by understanding where that's quite coercive on the environment, what I'm able to do is use that financial abundance to calculate with my wife. So we calculated about the middle of last year, how many trees would we need to plant as a family to neutralize our carbon footprint? And it was 8,000. So that fourth quadrant is your ability to consume through values, to contribute on a daily basis, and to make decisions to conserve the planet so that you and I can be net positive human beings. And I just want to leave you on one final thing. I've just seen Sarah come on. Thank you so much for that time check, Sarah. Very grateful. I just want to leave you with one thing. I want you to leave this presentation, leave this session, hopefully kind of just thinking about money in a very different way, but also thinking about this. If you were able to define money as a flow of love, as a force for good, and as fuel for your impact, how much more motivated and inspired would you be to go and serve through your business, to go and serve through your employment, to go and generate income, so that you could then spread it as a force for love, as a flow of love, force for good, flow of love, and fuel for your impact. And that's what we do at the 5-day training, which hopefully you've registered for, you've seen the opportunity to register for. It is allowing you to change the very definition of money in your life, and it's allowing you to raise your financial frequency so that you can go and create more currency in the world and really be the best metaphysical expression of yourself and have the best, most beautiful material experience of this world. So listen, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a real joy being here, and thank you to the Best You team for letting me share this stuff, mate. I'm really very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. You are absolutely outstanding. What a great presentation. We talk about high energy. You radiate high energy. So much passion for your topic. And I think, you know, from the comments that I've seen here, great presentation, really valuable insights, and helps me to reconsider how I made some of my previous financial decisions that didn't work out as hoped, from Jason McCarthy there. So I mean, it's resonating with so many people there, so many positive comments. So thank you. I think right now, where we are with the pandemic, financial help and support and that inspiration that you've provided today is really much, much needed.
Very kind. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dylan. Lovely to see you. Hope to see you again on the Best You.
Oh, most certainly. Yeah, most certainly. I'm very much looking forward to that. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye. Well, I hope you're enjoying everything today, guys. I hope you're really, really enjoying it. We have a packed day still. We have lots of amazing speakers still to come. So at 3 o'clock, we have Katia Rave, who's going to be talking about showing up in your business is not enough. It's just not enough just to show up. And I cannot wait, because Katia is awesome. And I know what she's going to be talking about is going to be really inspiring. So yes, you have to go the extra mile, and she's going to tell us all about how to do that. Now we're going to run to an ad in a moment, which is with the amazing Marie Diamond. You all have heard of her, I'm sure. She's amazing. Watch the ad and join us at 3 to welcome Katia to the stage.
My passion is to set people free by helping you transform any area of your life more effectively and faster than anything you've tried before. I do this by unique abilities gifted to me through 2 near-death experiences that allow me to help you change your frequency, changing your life.
People from all over the world are seeking inspiration, looking for answers, looking for ways to become the best version of themselves. And The Best You is launching in 2021 the Best TV series, a place where we will feature the best speakers, coaches, authors, and mentors. Leaders in their own rights, innovators, influencers, inspirers of the 21st century. Coming soon to The Best You TV.
Who will impact the world next? The speakers at our very first Best Youth Global, that's who. Are you a young powerhouse between the ages of 8 and 20? Then this expo is just for you. Join us on June 12th and 13th as a global influencer or global innovator and share your story, your influence, your journey to make and market your creativity, or just share your inspiration. All speakers will have automatic access to the Best Gen Zone. This is where the Best You Expo has free offerings and discount coupons just for your generation. For more information and to register as a speaker, go to thebestyouexpo.com today.
What's the best way of somebody managing time?
Well, I don't know if we ever manage time. I think we manage our actions in time, because we all have the same amount of time. We call it time management, but it's really our activity management. If a person was to sit down and write down everything that they do in a day and make a comprehensive list of everything that they do in a day, within possibly a month, each days of the month, what do they do? And then next to it, put down another column next to it. What is the productivity per hour? How much does it produce per hour economically? And next to that, another column that's how much meaning of inspiration does it provide? And next to that, what is the cost replacement? If I was to delegate it to somebody, what would I have to pay to have them do that? And next to that, another column is how much time is spent. If we put those 4 columns together against all the things that we do in a day, we'll find out that in most cases, most people that are less productive are doing low priority things. They're majoring in minors and minoring in majors. They're doing less priority things and not the most productive or most meaningful things. But by going through and doing an inventory of that and identifying what really produces economically and what is really meaningful, Usually the thing that produces is something that serves others. What's meaningful, it serves ourselves. Finding a balance of those meaningfulness, as in the things that are most productive, allows us to earn more income to delegate to lower priority activities. Once we delegate to lower priority activities, we get way more done. We feel way more fulfilled. We have a greater self-worth and net worth, and we're able to free ourselves up for creative thinking with the executive center in our brain instead of having to live in frustrations with our amygdala. So we actually activate our angelic mind, as I call it, instead of our animal mind. This is the most productive and most powerful day we can make. So prioritizing our day every day and living by high priorities is key. Parkinson's law states that if we don't fill our day with high priority actions that inspire us, it's going to keep filling up with low priority distractions that don't.
Tell me about, where does inspiration come from?
Well, whenever you're setting goals that are aligned to your highest values, the things that are most priority, most important to you, you're spontaneously inspired from within, like a calling from within to act. Nobody has to ever remind me or motivate me or incentivize me to get up and research and write every day and to teach every day. I love doing that. I can't wait to do it. And whenever you're doing things that are high in your values, you can't wait to do it. And when you can't wait to do something that inspires you, people can't wait to get your inspiration. But whenever you're doing something lower on your values, because you'll procrastinate, hesitate, and frustrate in doing it in comparison to the higher values, you'll need motivation and drive and incentives to get you to do it. And you're more avoiding pain and seeking pleasure in that mode. So I always say I'd rather fill my day with inspirations than have to live my life through having to be motivated from the outside. Motivation is a symptom, never a solution. Inspiration is the fulfillment of life.
But is it not difficult for people that maybe have just kind of like a mundane job? Is it not difficult sometimes maybe for them to find inspiration if they're just trying to bring a living in? Actually,
if they have never taken the time to identify the job description that they have and identify what's really truly high on their value, and then identify how specifically those activities are going to help them fulfill their highest value, they're going to have a mundane job. But it's never what happens to them. It's never what they're going through. It's their perception of it. William James, the father of modern psychology, said that the greatest discovery of his generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their perceptions and attitudes of mind. So if we take the time and ask the simple question, how specifically is the job duty I'm doing right now going to help me fulfill what is most meaningful, most inspiring, my highest priority, my highest value in my life, my purpose in life? If I ask that question and don't give myself excuses for not answering it, and just keep asking and answering that question over and over again, eventually my mind will see the blessing in it and see things on the way, not in the way. And the same job that seemed to be mundane is now inspiring. And the more you become engaged and the more you be fulfilled in the job. And when you're doing something that's meaningful, you look forward to the job and you're not trying to escape it with tea and coffee and internet distractions or spectators, things, or etc. And you're engaged, you're more productive. You get more promotions, more opportunities, and you're more likely to get more income and eventually more entrepreneurial opportunities.
Are you sick and tired of struggling to get your career to where you want it to be? Working with the right coach can be a life-changing experience, and Bernardo Moya is changing lives all over the world. Learn how to create revenue streams, attract higher qualified clients consistently, market your brand, and promote your business to a global audience. Bernardo is one of the biggest names in the world of personal development. He is an entrepreneur, an author, a speaker, and a founder and chief inspirational officer of the Best You Corporation. So fast track your career now